Bless you for your kindness, for the help of the Polish population of this city, including the Jewish population, no discrimination. I can go from strength to strength in all things, private and public.
I'm very, very sorry for your tragedy. Please accept my condolences, my sincere condolences. We're all praying for you in your time of need.
My blessing to transfer it to good deeds for all the population, as I mentioned before. It will be also the most gratified thing for the Neshama, for the soul of the departed person. Her first name was Chaya. Chaya. That means life. That is the name that has been inscribed on her matzeret. That means that it is perpetual even after the life in this earth, till creation. I hope it will be very soon.
I hear she was a wonderful, wonderful woman, your wife. Thank you, sir.
In my opinion, it is underestimated.
That's underestimated.
But many God Almighty knows all the truth, and especially everyone who tries his best to emulate, to fulfill her wishes. It will be, as I said before, the best gratification for the Neshama, and also great use for the living person after her.
Chaim l'chaim. A very special schus for all of us to participate tonight, by me today, at the special Farbrengen for yahrzeit-hilula from the Rebbetzin. Throughout the years, we all had the schus to hear from the Rebbe about the gdula and the gdusha, the greatness and the holiness of the Rebbetzin, and how we should conduct ourselves according to her ruach, according to her spirit, and to learn from her roes, from her instructions, from her noge. And we should all be zara b'chaim. I remember especially how the Rebbe said in CHof Beis Shevat, the first yahrzeit, how the Rebbe said, the Rebbe told the story about the Mesiras Nefesh from the Rebbetzin. The Rebbe says that that everyone, all of us, need to be like Zara B'chaim, to show the Zara B'chaim, and then she's B'chaim, the way that we learn from her Noge, which in her entire life was all Mesiras Nefesh. That in the entire life, the Rebbetzins Aveda was Kemitzvah Retzenecha, Betachas Hashlemes, in an Efer for Mesiras Nefesh. The Rebbe told a story about when she was a little girl, that the Melamed who was teaching her did not want to teach her stories from Mesiras Nefesh. And the Frierdiker Rebbe heard about it, and he called in the Melamed, and he said that the Adarabbe, the foundation of Chinuch, which probably the reason why the Melamed didn't want to teach her means because she took it so seriously and so pnimistic and so real that he was concerned. So therefore, the Frierdiker Rebbe called her in and said, Adarabbe, called the Melamed in and said, Adarabbe, the beginning, the foundation of Chinuch for Yiddish kind has to be Mesiras Nefesh. And the Rebbe said that the entire life of the Rebbetzin was all Mesiras Nefesh. The Rebbe said about the Rebbetzin meridike asias. For example, the Sicher, the first Sicher, which was after the Shiva, CHof Beis Shevat, the Rebbe said about the Rebbetzin that it says the famous story that Tzemach Tzedek, when he became Rebbe, he refused to become Rebbe, and then one of the Chassidim one of the elder Chassidim came in and told them, as Ish Mazriya Tchilo Yeledes Nekeva, and that's the Rebbetzin Dvar Leah, and Ish Mazriya Tchilo Yeledes Zochar, and that's Tzemach Tzedek. So the Rebbe used that expression that Ish Mazriya Tchilo Yeledes Nekeva, that there is a special connection between the Rebbetzin and her father, the Chassidishe Farbrengen, the Frierdiker Rebbe. And then the Rebbe even said that her last name is Shneir's son, and there was Magiyad, that the watch part Shneir's son, that she is a son of Shneir, of the Alter Rebbe, the founder of Chassidus Chabad, and that she is, the Rebbe quoted the Loshen from the Mishnah, that ha'av zeicher lebnei b'chamisha dvorim, that there are 5 things that a father gives to his son, and one of them is chochma and yefi and kayach and esher and shonim, until a ben is yeresh akel, even that a child is inheriting everything from his father. So the Rebbe said that she's a ben, she's a son, who is inheriting everything from the Alter Rebbe. And who the Alter Rebbe was, the Rebbe added the inyan from Neshama Chadosha, which is the highest tier of the Alter Rebbe, that he was from Pnimis Atik, from the Heichel from Moshiach. That means that the Rebbe says that she has all the milas of the Alter Rebbe, that she's a Yeresh of the Alter Rebbe, a Yeresh of all the Rabbeim of the Frierdiker Rebbe. And to the point that the Rebbe said, Shabbos Mishpotim in the Shiva, the Rebbe says, Eila Mishpotim, Mishtosim Lifneim, the Zayar says, Eila Mishpotim is Eila Mishpotim, the Gulgate, this is the Mishpotim of Gilgulim. And the Rebbe explained that there are 2 types of Neshamas. Neshamas the Biyah that have to go through a Gilgul, and then there is the Neshamas the Atzilis that they have not Shaychas to Gilgulim. And especially the Rebbe said, when it comes to Noshim, to women, that, and especially a woman who is from Malchus the Atzilis, and that she has no inyan for Gilgulim, and only the Eibishter is metapel in her aliyas and neshama. I remember how the Rebbe said those words. I know the Eibishter is the Eibishter vernemmt sich mit ihr. And then the Rebbe said that she's pale on the machzis. The Rebbe spoke about the inyan for machzis, a shekel, that she's pale on the machzis that was left here, what the Rebbe meant himself, and of all the Chassidim are here lamato. The Rebbe said about the Rebbetzin Miraculous, like when the stolen Rebbe came to the Shiva and he said to the Rebbe what she suffered from and so on. And then the Rebbe said that she had the inyan pnimi. Then the Rebbe said that the inyan from Siluk and Neshama, the inyan from Aliyah, as it says by Negate, so Istalek Ikod Kuchabichu, the Bikulu Holmin, the inyan from Istalek doesn't mean that she goes away. It means that it's here, but an Eifan Shel an Aliyah. And the Rebbe said, "V'tzadikim dem leberim." The Rebbe said about the Rebbe's in the same oisius that he said about the Frierdiker Rebbe and about the Rabbeim. In the last CHof Beis Shevat, which was Tovshin and Beis Leis Atov, but we from the Rebbe spoke about that Bechoi Yivorech Yisrael, the inyan from CHof Beis, that CHof Beis Shevat, and the Rebbe said that every year in the yahrzeit becomes a new aliyah to the Neshama, and therefore we say Kaddish again every year outside. And because aliyah to Neshama and aliyah to all those who are connected to the Neshama, who are Neshamas begufin lemato. And the Rebbe spoke about her yahrzeit, that since she's the daughter of Nasi Hader, it's just like when the Nasi Hader's yahrzeit, there is aliyah, is Menasseh, Umayle, the entire generation, he elevates the entire generation. The same thing about his daughter, the Rebbetzin, that all of her in Yonim, and especially her Istalkos and her yahrzeit, is pale an aliyah in the entire door, and especially the yahrzeit is the same month of the yahrzeit of the Frierdiker Rebbe, of Yud. So therefore, moving the Rebbe said that the brochas that she's giving, Bechoi Yivorech Yisrael, the brochas she's giving on her yahrzeit to every Yid, and especially to those who follow her heroes, and those who are conducting themselves berucho in her spirit. And she gives brochas in all the inyoni begashmis and beruchnis brochas mamish nocha bis ein kates. The Rebbe also gave special heroes what to do in the yahrzeit. The Rebbe said we should to establish institutions on her name, to give names to the children after her, to give tzedakah, the number of 470, the number of Ace, which is the gematria of her name, the Rebbetzins nomen, the gematria is 470. The Rebbe is also magia, the sharblat of the Kevitz Mishnayos that Bochum made for her, and which means to learn Mishnayos for her. And the ikar is to study from Arucha, from her spirit, from her anogas. So today, but the Farbrengen today, we will hear from our several presenters who will Farbrengen with us and will share personal stories about the Rebbetzin, how we could learn from her, and how we could be inspired and learn and elevate and go in her drochem. Especially this Farbrengen is very choshev because by the Rebbetzin there was a special chavivut, the inyan from Chassidishe Farbrengen was very dear to her. There are many stories, as we'll hear later. One of them is the famous story that Reb David Raskin told, that a very short time before the Istalkos, the Rebbetzin called Reb David Raskin, and she told him that she's from time to time she gets regards from Farbrengens that take place in 770, and the Rebbetzin said that sometimes she hears that sometimes some Farbrengens are not conducted things that are being spoken by the Farbrengen are not exactly the way Chassidishe Farbrengen should look like. And the Rebbetzin asked David Raskin, it's interesting, when the Rebbetzin called them, she didn't say her name. David Raskin recognized the Rebetzin's voice, but she only said, she didn't even say, typically she would say Mrs. Schneerson from President, but to David Raskin, she just said, I'm speaking from President Street, which is an interesting expression. And she said that David Raskin should make sure that the Farbrengens, by the Chassidishe Farbrengen, should be in the right way. Bechlal, she had a very special chavivus of Farbrengens. There is a very famous story that in Tovshin Yud Gimel, when it was the wedding of the Einikel, the wedding that the Rebbe and the Rebbetzin didn't go to, but the Rebbetzin called the hall in 770. There used to be a telephone call, a telephone in the hall in 770 upstairs, and a bocha picked up, and the Rebbetzin said, it's a simche bam taten, so she wants that the bochum should make a Farbrengen, and she asked if the mashpim are there, and they said no, they all went to the wedding. So she asked who is there, and they said that Choni Marozo, that Sholem Marozo was there. So the Rebbetzin said, Sholem Chonyes is Ken Farbreng, is Roy, is the right person to Farbreng with you. And the Rebbetzin asked the Farbrengen, she sent food with mashke and everything. So but the Rebbetzin was a very special chavivus to Chassidishe Farbrengen. And we also know, later we'll hear how, but after the wedding of Mule Azimov, when Mule and Basi Azimov came to the Rebbetzin, so the Rebbetzin said, "Ich habe gehört, was stark verbracht." I heard that there was a very great Farbrengen. So that's maybe an explanation, but das Tachten, why the Rebbe gave the unusual eroe that the last day of the Shiva, after the end of the Shiva, the Rebbe asked to make a Farbrengen, and then the Rebbe said, when the Gabbai made the announcement, the Rebbe said to him and showed that he wants a Farbrengen should be in the Rebbe's house, which was the one time in history that Chassidim Farbrengen in the Rebbe's house, and that was on the last day of the Shiva. And I was zeicher to be at that Farbrengen. It was a very, very unique Farbrengen. Groups came in one after the other to be at the Farbrengen. The elder Chassidim was sitting there, Rebbe Kechein, Futafas, all the elders there, Biel. It was a very unusual. Rebbe's upstairs in the second floor, and we are sitting in the Rebbe's dining room and Farbrengen. This was, and that's only shows because of the special chavivas that the Rebbetzin had to Chassidishe Farbrengen. So therefore, based on all of this, it makes sense why we understand the chshivas and the importance of this Farbrengen for huge from CHof Beis Shevat for the Rebbetzin. It's a big schus for each one of us to participate in this Farbrengen, and maybe I will ask everyone to take out l'chaim and to say l'chaim with this Farbrengen. And it's a time that we could both things. We could be miskasher and learn from the ruach from the Rebbetzin and from our noges, from our droches, and how to be what it means to be a chassid and how to be a chassid, and it's a time to get all the broches from the Rebbetzin. So you could ask when you say l'chaim, you ask for all the broches you need, v'chulu v'chulu. So l'chaim everybody, and now we'll begin. Before we start with our presenters, we'll begin with the Dvar Malchus, the Sicha from Rebbe, with the last a keta from the last Sicha that we heard CHof Beis Shevat of Shin and Beis about the Rebbetzin. So I would like to ask Abba Litvin to bring up that Sicha. Abba Litvin, are you with us? If not, we'll move on to the next presenter. Okay, fine. So we'll do it next time. All right. So we'll do it a little bit later. So right now, I would like to ask if Eliezer Laine is with us. If Eliezer Laine is with us, I would like to ask him to make his presentation, to share with us a few stories. Eliezer Laine, are you with us?
Yes.
I don't see you. Where are you? Can you open your window?
The video.
I still don't see you. I see your name now, but I don't see you. Can you open the window? You know how to undo? Eliezer Laine had a special schus that he was he had a special yachas relationship with the Rebbetzin. He had zeicher to have some heroes from the Rebbetzin. So we would like to ask Eliezer Laine to share with us some of his stories, and I know he was zeicher to work and build the campus Chomesh that the Rebbe, especially when the Rebbe came after when the Rebbe went to the oil and he came to the Anocha 7 Apine, the Rebbe stopped at the, I still remember the Rebbe's car came, and Rabbi Shem Tov ran to the car, and the Rebbe told him, the Rebbe gave him, the Rebbe told him that he's going to now to the Rebbetzin, and he's going to the oil, and he'll also be by the Rebbetzin, and the Rebbe gave a few brochas and gave dollars for everyone for this event, and Rebbe Eliezer Laine is the one who was zeicher to build Campus Chomesh and be involved with that. So Rebbe Eliezer, we still don't see your face. Can we zeicher to see your face too? It'll be a special schuz. What? Do you have some child there, grandchild that could help you undo it? To open your window?
When I click on the video, it gives me a red line.
We could hear you. So you know what? Start talking without seeing you. Go ahead. Or maybe now we can hear you. No, I see you playing with that. So maybe
It says,
is there a neighbor that can help you?
it said start my video, so I clicked on it.
And it doesn't work. Okay, so start telling the stories. That's all right. Go ahead. Say l'chaim and tell us, share with us. Go ahead, Rebbe Eliezer.
Yeah.
Go
So,
ahead.
well, l'chaim.
L'chaim, l'chaim.
No. Okay. Share. No.
Never mind the video. Go ahead.
Okay. Beseder. So, first of all, I wanted to make a note about our MC, Rabbi Greenberg. He said that one of the older Chassidim said to the Rebbe, the Tzemach Tzedek, that Ish Mazriat Chilo Yeledes Nekevo, and Ish Mazras Chilo Yeledes Zohar. So the older Chossi that Rabbi Greenberg was talking about was Rebbetzin, of the known Rebbetzin Igovel, and the Rebbe Mariatz brings it in his stories that he heard from Radatz, because Radatz used to tell the Rebbe Rayatz a lot of stories. So the Rebbe Rayatz brings it down in the name of Rebbetzin Igovel. Now we're going to get to the point.
Isn't Rebbetzin your great-grandfather?
Rebbetzin is my great-great-grandfather. I'm the 5th generation Ben Achar Ben of Rebbetzin Igovel.
Wow. So we'll need another explanation next time. Why is your name Laine and not Chain? Oh, that's okay.
That's part of my speech tonight.
Oh, okay. Go ahead.
The Rebbetzin also wanted to know.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah. So we'll start in CHof Beis, that was 1969, a year after I came to the Rebbe. Reb David Raskin asked me that I should do Dikas Chometz in the Rebbe Rayatz's apartment. Gemovin that I wasn't up to it because it wasn't my thing. I told Reb David that there are many bochrim over here that are going to grab it, the kibud or whatever you want to call it. But for me, it's not comfortable. And therefore, so he said, the Rebbetzin told me that she wants to have a statechna bocher. So I learned that a statechna bocher is a bocher that is organized, mesuder, and clean. So I told him, listen, the bocherim over here You know, they don't change the shirt every day, but I have a whole pack of white shirts, and I'll donate one of my shirts to a bocher that is going to be more than happy to go upstairs and do the biggest chametz. So she said, it's not, he said, Reb David said, it's not the white shirt, it's the character. So, Akoponim, I asked him that he should send one more bocher with me.
Okay.
He found one more bocher that was willing to go upstairs, and I took out the broom, the map, and I cleaned the room, I swept the floor, I washed the floor in the main dining room where the Rebbe would hold the Seder. I cleaned the kitchen, I cleaned the dinette where the Rebbetzins would be sitting, and I'm getting ready to light the match to start the chametz. So the other bocher told me, that's how you do the chametz in the Rebbe's apartment. You have to open up the drawers and clean the drawers. So I got a little bit upset and I spoke a little bit louder and I said, in the Rebbe's house, you don't open up drawers.
Yeah.
I did the bdikas chometz, and as soon as he left, when I didn't want to open up the drawers, the bocher left. As soon as I finished bdikas chometz, I put back the broom and the mop and the pail, and I was getting ready to walk out from the side door. Just wondering, video setting closed. Choose video filter. No, adjust background. Put my background. Oh, is that the much? Okay.
Probably if you call a neighbor, if you have a neighbor there in Crown Heights, would know how to fix it for you. But anyway, continue. Maybe your wife could call a neighbor to come in. Okay, continue. Go ahead.
Okay, she's going to call somebody.
Go ahead.
I was getting closer to the side door that's right by the kitchen to go downstairs. And sure enough, I mean, even though I asked Reb David that I want to go upstairs, like 11:30, 12 o'clock at night, when I know that no one is there, I hear behind me, I hear steps of heels. So I look with the side of my eye, and I noticed that the Rebbetzin is coming. I tried grabbing the handle of the door quickly so I can disappear, but she physically ran up to the door. She ran up to the door, and she asked me, yahrzeit-hilula, are you in a hurry? I said, no, not in a hurry. So the Rebbetzin said, I see you are wearing a blue suit. I said, yeah, well, am I going to tell the Rebbetzin that I got it on a sale because I got $20 from the yeshiva a month, and I gave up sometimes breakfast and sometimes supper to tutor a boy so I can get myself a couple of dollars. So I said, yeah. So she said, blue is, she said, black is worn by happy occasions and not happy occasions. Blue is classic. Okay, you know, softened me a little bit. Blue is classic, okay? And she said, ich, on herself, ich hab halt braun.
Brown.
Then she said, if you're going to be standing, I'm going to be standing. but if you're going to sit down, I'll sit down.
Wow.
So there was no choice. So I sat down. Check. The Rebbetzin asked me my whereabouts, what's my name, my last name. And then in the course of the conversation, I said that my grandfather, Rebbe Eliezer Laine, was one of the first Talmidim in Lubavitch. So she was looking at me, and I said, Eliezer Laine is third generation of Rebbe, and he is a nephew of the Radat Chaim. She says, oh, das hat mir gehört. That we heard. So she said, so if you are Ben Achar Ben, how is your last name Laine? And Rebbe was Chaim, and Radat was Chaim, and they were all Chaims. So I told her, that's to answer your question also. So I told her, in the time of the Kantonisten, my great-grandfather, Rebbe Chenigover, he had two sons. Meir, that was from his first wife. He was already a teenager. And then his next son was Moshe Leib. We come from Moshe Leib. Yeah, I see him. You observe here is video.
Yes.
So I pressed video.
And
Good, my name comes up. Eliezer Laine, that's my name. Are you talking about this
where's
little
your
thing?
camera?
I don't need to have a
Of
camera.
course you do.
No,
You
not in
ordered the
Zoom. Only Skype, you need a camera. See, it said, start my video.
Is this a laptop? Because if it's a computer, you do need to have a camera. If it's a laptop, it's automatic.
Not a laptop. This is a full-fledged camera, and if it doesn't, I mean, a computer, and if it doesn't have a camera up
Ah.
here, Blackstone and button.
Okay.
So if there's no camera, your won't work. Maybe you could call in from your cell phone.
From my laptop, I could speak.
Yes, because
From a laptop, it will work. Or you could call from your cell phone.
Oh, okay. 1 second, 1 second. Here is my laptop.
Now we know you are a true Chassid. That you don't even know how to get in on a Zoom. That shows that you're from the old generation. Now we see something.
Oh,
By Yehi Air, now we could see you.
yeah,
Beautiful.
good. So as I was saying, I think I should close. Oh, now it came up also on my Seder. Okay, now it came up also on my desktop. Seder.
No, don't cover yourself. That's okay.
Seder.
Yeah, close the other computer. Better should be only one. It should not be two together. But this one is fine. Continue. It's fine. We could hear you. Go ahead. Don't worry. Continue.
Okay, Seder. So Al Kaponim, she asked me, how are all the Chains, and how is my last name Laine? I told her, in the time of the Kantonisten, the youngest son of Rebbe Peretz, Moshe Leib, was grabbed by the Kantonisten. Now, Rebbe Peretz told Meir strictly not to let Moshe Leib out of the chotzer, of the yard, of the house. But apparently, the young child, 8, 9 years old, he ran out, and as he ran out, the horse and buggy of the chappers, the Kantonisten, noticed him. They grabbed him, put him on the buggy, and weggefahren, they ran away.
Mm-hmm.
Now, we are always under the impression that when the children were picked up, they were brought to the Tsar. First, they were brought to the Kehillah, to the building of the Kehillah. And when they had a certain some amount of children, that's when they took everybody and they brought them to the school of the Tsar, and that's where they got a second education. And then they got lost. They came back when they were over 40 years old. So Meir came to the house of the Kehillah, and he said that the child that you just picked up, I'm telling all this to the Rebbetzin, the child that you just picked up is not my brother. He's not a Chaim. He's adopted. He's a Yosef. So they said, bring his birth certificate. Now, so the birth certificate said, Moshe Leib Chaim. But you come from Russian parents, so do I. So a Chaim, Rosh is like a X in English. X. A L is like an upside down V.
Mm-hmm.
So Meir, with some speed, scratched off the two horns of the X.
Wow.
And it became a L, and he came to them and he said, this boy is Moshe Leib Laine. So they said, you're right, take him home.
Wow.
And that's how we were saved. So the Rebbetzin said, das ist sehr clever.
Yeah?
Das ist sehr clever.
Wow.
Yeah. Then she asked me some questions about Kfar Chabad, how I find the difference between the new village that we moved in 56, which was about 10 years before, 11 years before, and the rest, I told her, she asked me some questions, this, that, and the other.
What do you mean the new village? I mean, in Kfar Chabad itself was a new village that you built?
The old, when Kfar Chabad was established by the Frierdiker Rebbe, by the Rebbe Rayatz, everybody moved in to old Arab houses.
Okay.
And in about 55, 56, the government said that through Shazar, that if the villagers, the people from Kfar Chabad, will get involved in agriculture, and they're going to have chickens and a cow with a horse, then the government is going to give them new houses. So everybody got a cow, and a horse was divided by shutfim, and everybody, sure. So I told her the difference between the house, the old house, there was no electricity, there was no water, we had to go bring pails of water, and the new house, there was electricity, and there was water in the house. The old house, we had to go to relieve ourselves in the chotzer. There was a special budke, and over here, everything is inside. She says, good. She says, I got some regard, but I wanted to get from someone that really grew up as a youngster. Fine.
Wow. So the Rebbetzin was checking out Kfar Chabad through you, basically.
Yeah. We had a conversation of over an hour.
Wow.
But I want to touch 3 points that evolved from the beginning of the conversation. So she said, you're wearing blue, it's classic. I like brown. So blue is the sky, brown is the earth, is the ganze Welt.
That she said, the Rebbetzin said that?
Yeah. Is the ganze Welt. Blue is the Himmel, and braun is the earth. So that was in CHof Beis Shevat, 1969. In the early 80s, that's the early memes, the Rebbetzin fell and she broke her arm and her hip. So she had a very big car, and her car did not fit into the driveway between 770 and the library. I believe it's 766, 768, whatever the number is. So every weekend, they were renting a car for the weekend to bring the Rebbetzin from the house to be together with the Rebbe in the library. At that time, I had a furniture business. Furniture. We had a couple of trucks and other vehicles, and I had a mechanic. And most of the time when I brought in one of the vehicles, the Rebbe's car was there to being repaired. So I asked the mechanic, what's the problem with the Rebbe's car? So he says, every time another part goes wrong, it's time that the Rebbe gets a new car. We did pretty good in business that time. In the 80s, they called it the Reaganomics. It was Birchas Hashem, but man hat es gerufen the Reaganomics. So Shabbos, I went over to Rabbi Krinsky, and I told him, listen, I see the Rebbe's car quite often by the mechanic. I spoke to the mechanic. He said that every time something goes wrong, it's time to get the Rebbe a new car. So he says, you're right. However, there are two problems. A, the Rebbe doesn't want a new car. B, if the Rebbe is going to agree that a new car should be bought, then there are three young light that they bought the first car, and they have a din kdime, because quite often they come over to me and they ask me that they want to buy the Rebbe a new car. Sure. I went home. Motzoi Shabbos, my telephone rings. Rabbi Krinsky is on the telephone. He says to me, listen, you caught me off guard. So I told you, no deal. However, Eishes Chover Kechover, the Rebbetzin comes every Friday to the library to be with the Rebbe for Shabbos. And every week we rent a car, and it's very costly. So if you have money for a car, maybe you want to buy the Rebbetzin car. So I said, yeah, I'll come over to you. I'll give you a check. So he says, no. I don't do business like this. I'm coming over to your house. I said, Gesundheit, we'll have Malken. He came over to my house. He told me how much the car for the Rebbetzin would be. I wrote him out a check, and I told him, listen, the car has to be brown. I said, who are you to decide for the Rebbetzin? I said, listen, that's my time. I'm giving you the money. Here is the check. You can send somebody tomorrow to buy the car. You can put it into the bank. Baruch Hashem, it's going to be cashed. But my tnai is that the car has to be brown. Okay? The next day, a bocher was sent to Detroit, to the car manufacturing, and he came back with a brown Buick. I didn't know who the bocher was because I was already married. I didn't know the bocherim. But I told the story a couple of years ago in Durham, Africa, in South Africa. So that young man got up and he said, I vouch for the story. I was the bocher that was sent to pick up the car. So now Rabbi Krinsky tells me, here are the keys. Get into the car and bring it to the Rebbetzin. I said, no. The Rebbetzin has a driver. It's Reb Schollenberg Gansburg. Give him the key. Let him take the car. And you go together with him. And I'm going to go with my own car. And I will see from the driveway what's the Rebbetzins reaction. Says, okay, if that's what you want, it's fine with me. So they got into the car, they drove up the car, up the driveway, and Rabbi Krinsky went to knock on the Rebetzin's door. She came out with the walker. And Rabbi Krinsky says, oh, die car hat me gekauft for the Rebbetzin. So she goes, a Karitschneve. Karitschneve is brown. Karitschneve in Russian is brown. A Karitschneve, sehr good.
Wow.
Now, Krinsky is already getting curious what's going on over here. So he runs down the driveway and says to me, Eliezer, you never told me that you have some kind of a deal with the Rebbetzin about a brown car. So I told him it wasn't about a brown car, but as the Rebbetzin, maybe the Rebbetzin is going to tell you, a conversation I had with the Rebbetzin, Erev Pesach Tovshin Chof Beis, and you have to ask her. I didn't want to tell him that she told me, I like your suit, it's classic, but ich hab halt Bräun. So when I heard Bräun, and now they're coming to buy a car, I said, let me buy a brown car. Baruch Hashem, Baruch Shekivanti.
That's beautiful.
That was one story. Then, in the summer of that summer, I believe it was Tovshin Mem Gimel. So we were waiting for a simcha, but unfortunately my wife had problems and she went to the doctor. The doctor said she's not sure which way it's going to go. So I told my wife, listen, we have a couple of children in the house. Let's get the babysitter to sleep with them. And my sister Sarah is going to cook for them. And let's go for a vacation in Newport. Da schöner Platz, luftig. And we'll see. She said, what am I going to do in my condition in Newport? I said, listen, we'll try. Yeah, neat. But I didn't want it to happen in the house. So I told my daughter, she was then about 6, 7 years old. I told her that we are going for a trip, and on the trip, there aren't any pay funds. So I'm going to call her in the morning, I'm going to call her at night, but during the day, not to call. Akoponim, we got this bungalow. The bungalow didn't have a telephone. And as soon as we get in, and I bring in the valises, the chumadanes, my beeper goes off. I take a look, it's the house. Okay. From the bungalow to the main house is a walk of about 5 to 7 minutes quickly. No, the daughter is calling in the middle of the day, not when we made up, so probably something that I have to run for. So I went into the main house, I called up, I said, what's the story? She said, Rabbi Klein called, and he said that it's very important that you call Rabbi Krinsky. Now, I said to Binyamin, I didn't write in anything to the Rebbe. I have no idea what Rabbi Krinsky wants from me. He says, Eliezer, mach nicht ein Chochmes, call up Rabbi Krinsky. Okay? I called up Rabbi Krinsky. He says, the car that you bought for the Rebbe in the winter, I wrote into the Rebbe that
For the Rebbetzin.
But I wrote into the Rebbe that you bought a car for the Rebbetzin.
Yeah.
But the Rebbe never answered me on the door. A couple of minutes ago, the answer came out, Hapan niskabel. I say, those is in himmeldike Sachen. Because I really wasn't going to write into the Rebbe, because I wasn't going to. But Hapan niskabel, das ist ein anderer Wörter. So, when we came over there, I rented a Jeep to go up on the mountains, in the forest. She should feel a little bit better, luftig. I come into the bungalow, she's not there. So I look outside, sie sitzen in dem Jeep. So I said, hi, how do you feel? She says, like a cloud. The whole thing went away, and I'm feeling very good. So I told her, I want to share with you. The Rebbe just answered on the car that we bought in the winter. I'm talking now in the summer. The car that we bought in the winter, the Rebbe just answered, Hapanis Kabel.
Wow.
And Baruch Hashem, everything was going fine. What happened was, she gave birth Ben Hashmoses Shabbos. So, according to the time, it was already Motzoi Shabbos, I believe. Yeah. Motzoi Shabbos, I see everything is fine, she is fine, the baby is fine. I've been there for many hours. I get into a car, taxi, I go home. 12:30 in the morning, she calls me, you must come down. They took down the baby to ICU. Huh? ICU, so I come down, look at the baby, wired here and wired there. So Sunday morning, I ran to Binyamin. I told him, listen, I didn't go to the mikveh, but please write for me to the Rebbe the situation. So he wrote, and Punkt the Rebbe came in. And Punkt the Rebbe came in from
To 770?
To 770. So I don't remember if Binyamin looked at the Rebbe or the Rebbe looked at Binyamin. Maybe there was a buzz, I don't remember. But I know that Binyamin went right in. Binyamin went in. I saw him holding the zettel. And he came out like 2 minutes later. And he says, I'll say it in Yiddish first. Was ist azay zu tragen? Komm doch geämpft Hapanis Kabel. No. To translate it into English, basically the Rebbe said, why is this so in such agony? I answered him that the pan was received. So, comes a day or two later, they take him into a deeper ICU. First he was 4 babies with 1 nurse. Now he's 1-on-1. So I ran to Binyamin. I tell him the story. He says, Eliezer mit Afhab Memune. I said, yeah, but if he's now 1-on-1, it's cracking a little, the Emune. So he went into the Rebbe, and the Rebbe told him, the baby is girl, Jontes. The baby is girl. Girl kite gate away. Sure. I run to the hospital. I tell my wife, listen, sure enough, an hour or 2 later, I get a call from the doctor. Says to me, they made a mistake that they took him in to the intensive ICU. He got jaundice, and we are going to take him upstairs.
Wow. That's unbelievable.
That was one story. I like Boyne. Now, we're coming the late 80s. They started building the campus. And unfortunately, so CHof Beis. So in Tofshinun Beis, the end of Tofshinun Beis, Rabbi Shem Tov hired me to be an auditor for Beis Rivke. I did 1 year auditing. I put it, the Oiver Vashov, I put it in order. And then he says to me, listen, I have over here 2 menalim, and you are new. But I see in 1 year what you did. I like you to take care of the construction of Campus Chomesh. I know with you I'll have a seder with the money and everything. So I took the plans, I went to architects, engineers, they taught me how to read a plan. Then I started hiring people. Baruch Hashem, we came to the point, we finished the foundation, the steel was up, and now the architect calls me that we need to pick the bricks. So I asked them, how do you decide what bricks to pick? And they stop. So he says to me, on Lefferts Avenue, on the north side of Lefferts Avenue is all yellow buildings. On Brooklyn Avenue, there is a red building. So you have to decide, you want the school to be yellow or do you want the school to be red? So I told him, give me a couple of days, I'll get back to you. I took my car and I went to the oil. At that time, there was no Gutnick's building, there was no tent, there wasn't anything. I went into the oil. I wrote a zettel that I should be matzliach to bring nachas ruach and to be mekaven to the kavana. And then when I walked out, I said, wait a minute, the building is for the Rebbetzin. So let me walk over to the Rebbetzin. So I walked over to the Rebbetzin, I said a kapitel tilim, and I said that we are building a building in the memory of the Rebbetzin, and I'm asking a bracha that we should be mekaven to the kavana. And I'm walking out, I'm walking on the shvil, the short one first, and then the longer one, and it hits me. Your suit is bloy. It's plastic. Ich hab halt bruin. So from there, I took the car, I went to the architects, and noch jemand nie gewinnt the cell phones as a popular. I went to the architect, I told him the committee decided that the building is going to be brown and the windows are going to be blue. He said, I don't see exactly how it fits in with the surrounding buildings. I said it doesn't have to fit. It's a unique building for the Rebbetzin, and it doesn't have to look like an apartment building, a yellow. It doesn't have to look like a red apartment building. It has to have its own color. And the color that the committee decided is brown bricks and blue windows. There was one more story that I had from the Rebbetzins meeting for my encounter, but at the moment I didn't write it down, so I believe that I gave a fair amount of time.
Okay.
So we'll say L'chaim again.
L'chaim, L'chaim. Yasher koyach, it was amazing. L'chaim, L'chaim. So you'll take a break now, or you want to continue?
I think I'll take a break, and if I'll remember.
Okay, that's great. Your stories are amazing, and I wish I would know them 30 years ago, but these stories are just unbelievable, all the 3 stories, and Yasher koyach Gadol for that. I'm sure everyone was inspired by that. And if Rabbi Litvin is ready with the video, we were supposed to show a video from CHof Beis Shevat, a small keta. If Rabbi Litvin is ready, we'll do that. If not, we'll go to the next speaker. Rabbi Litvin? Yes, Rabbi Litvin, yes, no? Are you with us, Rabbi Litvin? I understand he's supposed to be running the show. Oh, it's coming? Oh, fine, thank you.
Okay, let's take a
Amen. Achileke bekam imal Mamosh in Stalle geworden, aber schon im Liefnisse. Und dann noch bei ihm yahrzeit wird es noch einmal übergehasert, weil der See, wo der Phariser damals tegen der Linie, was wird als Chatschus in Amilas Kaddish, was Kaddish Bechilione Ingen Shel Halo, אף על פי was בינתיים der gewinn במשך השון ובמשך 2 שונים ובמשך 3 שונים וגוון כל משך ימי השון nicht gewinn כנמירס קדיש. Danach bei ihm yahrzeit ist weiter geworden der Ingen Amiras HaKadosh, warum sie geworden noch einmal, wieder einmal an Ali. Und an Ali ist Lebe für alle Alis HaKidmeis und befragt noch, am gefühlt sich in der Deir, was durch der Deir Achrin Legolus und Deir Horishin Legiulo, כמדובר כמה פעמים ברוחו, במשך השונים הכי אחריינס, ודו זה verbunden echt mit der Aliyah הכי עליונה, was sich verbunden mit Skabes, mit Bechein und Malba Kampfes Horez und mit der Simcha Vetuv Levo und dafke in der Hemmschicht von der Neshama Brie und der Gufbori, weil derich sehr echt in den Neshama Sakizu war an Sheikh Niofer, wie es steht in Kisve Harizal, als sehr wie sie gewähren Beschaß Yitzias Mitzrayim, demol b'schus Noshim Tzidkonische Beis Hadeim, Allah Aveseinu Mitzrayim, und Nachsin Visalkin Aliyah, Lachra Aliyah, als sechet b'schus Noshim Tzidkonische B'dereinu Zeh, und befragt Azeinu, was Seche gewähren, Hakam v'kam mit Bnei Yisrael Nikrois al Shmon, und sie beweisen ein lebendigen Beispiel mit lebendigen Neshamas und lebendigen Gufen, Monke in Hefzig, weil diese werden nischanisch in ihrer Ruach und lehrt ihre Anweisungen und lehrt ihre Beispiel, wo sie sich nischanisch geworden, all die Niside Reino, beim Reden, beim Schwere, mit über Kama Pomim, ist es sicher, Mizare sein und Mekare sein, bis wann es sein, der Mare Besboi, Vehimer Zeh, Hawaii Kivinoli, und es wird Kiflaim Litishi, der Zweite Zeh, Zeh Hawaii Kivinoli, Vehishienu, Veteke von Miyad Mamosh, Vole Yikvam, Afil Keheret Ayin, ובינרנו, בזקנינו, בבנינו, ובבניסינו, is menele תקף ומיד עם ענן נשמיה, ועל קיצה ורנו שייך מיופר וכל העניונים והנושים האמורים, בתכנו, בראשינו, ותקף ומיד ממש.
Chaim L'chaim. I'm sure everybody's saying L'chaim where they are at home. The special Farbrengen, as you just heard, the Meredike Meises from Rebbe Laine, the Meredike Mefsim, Gluim, that he saw from the Rebbe and the Rebbetzin. So it's a izdamnus, it's an opportunity for everyone. There's not one person who does not need his bakoshes. So the Rebbe once mentioned by Farbrengen, and we can sagen apidin durch L'chaim. So you say L'chaim and you ask the Rebbetzin for all the broches you need, and the biggest broche that we and our children and grandchildren should all be mekusher zum Rebbe and leben mit dem Rebbe and der Herren dem Rebbe and füllen dem Rebbe. So before we go to the next speaker, just want to mention there is so much to speak about the Rebbetzin. As a ganze Nacht is ein genug. The whole night will not be enough. There is so much. But every time the Rebbe once said by Itas Kislev as every Pesach, that every Pesach we comes to the Seder, we have to be B'sapi B'tzit Mitzrayim Kol Halayla, because that brings that the Skorim and Naisim, that Eib Tuf Yad Neinem. So I just want to mention a few things before we go to the next speaker. The week from the Shiva, we, the Bochim, were very, very broken, and we thought, what can we do for the Rebbe? So the first thing we decided is to make a kavitz about the Rebbetzin. This was the kavitz in Meina Malko, our mother, the king, our mother, the queen, I'm sorry, that we did for the Rebbetzin, and we gave into the Rebbe the first version of the booklet. And in the booklet, one of the things we did, this was the first booklet ever written about the Rebbetzin, and we had several chapters. One chapter was about the special connection of the Rebbetzin with the Rebbe Rashab. A second chapter was a special connection of the Rebbetzin with the Frierdiker Rebbe, and a third chapter about the Rebbe. There were beautiful things there. But what's interesting was about the book is that before we went to print, we added more things that was in the first version that we gave into the Rebbe, because we wanted to make it bigger, nicer. And one of the things we added was a picture of the Rebbetzin that was published in Allgemeiner Journal, a picture from the Rebbetzins passport, when she came in Tovshin Zayin, in Tovshin Vov, when she made a passport, and the American passport. And there was a Rov, Reb Gabriel Zinner, who wrote to the Rebbe about it. And he questioned the fact that we in a kavitz, we put a picture of the Rebbetzin. So the Rebbe wrote to him a whole answer al pinigle that he's wrong about the etzem inyan. And then the Rebbe's meisiv something very, very special, which is negate to all of us. The Rebbe said as why it's important to have the picture, because that's meisiv in vachai iten alipa, as we could see b'muchash, that when people don't see the picture of the Rebbetzin, it's harder to connect to the Rebbetzin. When we see a picture, it's meisiv in vachai iten alipa, and the Rebbe wrote, maybe this is the svara of those who added the picture of the Rebbetzin to the booklet, because they understood that it's meisif in Achait and Liebe, it's meisif in learning from the Rebbetzin, Achait and Liebe, to learn from the Rebbetzin when you see her picture. So we see the chshivas to what extent, and there are several stories about the connection of the Rebbetzin, how the Rabbeim, the Rebbe Rashab, the Frierdiker and the Rebbe, how they were, how great they were holding the Rebbetzin. There is a famous sefer Ashkafta the Rebbe, which is written by Rebbe Rivkin about the Istalkas of the Rebbe Rashab. So there is a Ashmote from that booklet which was not printed, and the Ashmote is that he was in the Rebbe Rashab's house, and all of a sudden he woke up middle of the night. He heard noise, so he woke up. He got out of his room, and he saw the Rebbetzin is running with a cup of coffee. So he stopped the Rebbetzin, he understood something is going wrong, and he said to the Rebbetzin, what's going on? And she didn't want to answer him. So he was like, what's going on? And the Rebbetzin said that the Rebbe Rashab is already sick for a few days, and nobody in the family knows about it. He's keeping it a secret from the Frierdiker Rebbe, from his own Rebbetzin, and only he told the Rebbetzin, our Rebbetzin, about it, and she's taking care of him already for a few days, and now she's running, because there is something not feeling good, and she's running upstairs to him. So Rebbe Rivkin writes that nobody in the house, none of the family knew until the Rebbe Rashab became so sick that it was not impossible to hide it, that's when everyone else find out. So who the Rebbe Rashab trusted and who he said secretly did not feeling good and who took care of him was our Rebbetzin. That's just one example. And you know that the Rebbetzin said once that she still remembers every word she heard from the Rebbe Rashab, which is unbelievable. And Rebbe Yael was by the Rebbetzin when he went as a chassan with Mrs. Khan to the Rebbetzin told a story how when she was in the Rebbe Rashab's house, she was able to know from the avir, from the air in the room, in the house, she was able to know who is in Yechidus. If it's a misnagdeshe rov, then the air was very verkwetscht or very serious, and if it's a Chassidishe chassid, then the air wasn't very lebedik. So to that extent, her iskashas and her connection to the Rebbe Rashab was. Then the Friedrich Rebbe, of course, we don't have to say, but it's important to mention at least one story that Rebbe Zalman Duchman in the Sefer L'Shem Ha'ezen, one of the first letters he wrote to the Rebbe asked him, he wrote a letter to the Rebbe, and before the Nesias, from where he was in Paris, and he wrote to the Rebbe in such an amazing way, about the Rebbe. And then the Rebbe writes to him back, and the Rebbe says, "Are you the one that I gave the ksovim to hide when the Friedrich Rebbe was arrested?" And he writes back, he said, "Yes, I'm the one." And then he writes to the Rebbe, and I remember when the Friedrich Rebbe went to Kostroma, he took the Rebbetzin with him. And the Friedrich Rebbe said, why he takes the Rebbetzin with him? Because the older one is too sharp, the younger one is too quiet. The Rebbetzin is the perfect one. That's how he writes. So we see how the Friedrich Rebbe held the Rebbetzin in the highest level, that he took her, dafke her with him to Kostroma. And then, of course, with the Rebbe, her iskashas to the Rebbe is, as we will hear later, in an unbelievable way. And one of the things what Rabbi Krinsky told, the story what happened Lamed Ches, when the Rebbe was had a massive heart attack, and it became so dangerous, and all the doctors said he must go to the hospital. And to the point that the Rebbetzin came down when there was a second heart attack, 5 in the morning, when the famous thing, when Rebbe Yale and all the Chassidim, the many of Chassidim went to the oil walking, and it was a major pikuach nefesh, and the Rebbetzin came down and said, "What's going on?" And Rabbi Krinsky said the doctors want to sedate the Rebbe and to take him to the hospital against his will. And the Rebbetzin said, "From the day I know the Rebbe, he was always in control of himself, and I'll never allow to do anything against his will." This is we talk about matzah from pikuach nefesh mamish, which shows you the greatness of the Rebbetzin, not only her iskashos, but her greatness, her kedusha itself. And in general, the Rebbetzin was the one who gave that chinuch. The Rebbe says in the Sikha that we have to learn from the Rebbetzin, from her rucha, from her spirit, and from her anogis, and from her erois. The Rebbetzin gave a special chinuch to Chassidim. We have countless stories. Just an example how the famous phone call that was besparsam lately, that Menachem Yunik, who was a rebel Yunik son, was a shliach in England. And Menachem Yunik, when he was a young bacher in Tovshim and Vov, he was in South Africa on shlichus, and he used to call the Rebbetzin from time to time. And there is an old phone call that was in Sgalig geworden lately, and in the phone call you hear his conversation. He recorded, or a bacher recorded for him, the conversation he had with the Rebbetzin. And what you see from that phone call, he had some medical issue. And then he tells the Rebbetzin about the medical issue, and the Rebbetzin goes back and forth what to do, and if it's better maybe because somehow the climate in South Africa was not good for him, for his breathing. And Rebbetzin suggested maybe he should go to Cape Town, and so on, and was going back and forth, all arichas, like more than 10 minutes conversation. And then in the middle, the Rebbetzin said to him, "I could tell the Rebbe about this, but to the Rebbe, we have to tell exactly. We can't just say in general. We have to say exactly. So I want you to write yourself the letter, and I'll take this letter and give it to the Rebbe." In other words, the Rebbe says mechanechim that when it comes to the Rebbe, you have to tell him exactly, even though he tells the Rebbe and everything. But the Rebbe says to the Rebbe, we have to say exactly. So, and she said it twice. I could still tell the Rebbe, but I need you to say to be exact. So therefore, I want you to write it down in your opinion. So we see that she was mechanech the Chassidim, what it means. There was a famous story how that once a Chassid gave the Rebbetzin, we'll hear later how there was an old group of Anash and Chassidim who the Rebbetzin was their contact. She was their contact, and she used to bring their tzedlach to the Rebbe. She was like another masker. And most people did not know about it, but there was an old group of families who every one of their requests, they went through the Rebbetzin. So once someone gave to the Rebbetzin a zettel, because it was a terrible matzah of pikuach nefesh, for a brocha from the Rebbe. And then he says to the Rebbetzin, "Should I also maybe go to the oil of the Friedrich Rebbe?" And the Rebbetzin said, "My man knows himself what has to be done. Like, we dabish them 90 tables, done." And then another time there was someone who asked the Rebbe, to the Rebbetzin a question, and the Rebbetzin gave the answer. So he wanted to ask again. The Rebbetzin said, no. A Chassid fragt nicht über. If the Rebbe said this, he don't ask again. So the amazing stories of the Rebbetzin, how she gave chinuch, the famous story that she told Meir Shleimer, eunuch, who in Tov Shem Vov, he was a meshamish upstairs, and he got uncomfortable because of the story with the mishpet, and the bachim were like giving him a hard time. So he decided he'll run away to Israel. So he tells the Rebbetzin he wants to go to Israel. So Rebbetzin says, why do you want to go to Israel? He said, because he wants to go to the Miraculous Akdeshim. What is he going to tell the Rebbetzin? He's running away? He'll tell him, Miraculous Akdeshim. So the Rebbetzin said, no, the tate nish genug, and my father's ale is not enough. You have to run to the Miraculous Akdeshim. As we all know what the Rebbe said, Yitzvat Tavshin Yudala, the famous Sikha, the Rebbe said how the difference between an oil and the Miraculous Akdeshim in Eretz Yisrael, the Rebbe explained that the Eretz Yisrael, in Zman HaChurban, is, even though the etzem is there, but the etzem is not the gilui. And by the oil, because the Neshama says that the Rebbe Paracher said the famous saying from the Alter Rebbe, Sefara Neshamas, by Zay there was no churban like Rashbi. So by the Rabbeim, but the Rebbe said by the Frierdiker Rebbe the oil, there is the etzem is also begilat. So that's the mile from the oil legabe Eretz Yisrael, that in Eretz Yisrael there is no giluim. The etzem is not begilui there. Where is the etzem begilui? Dafke by the oil. That's also the famous story that Meir Alik just told a few years ago. The first time we heard that. The Meir Alik said that B'shas the Stalkas, when they Tovshin Yud, B'shas they brought the Oren down, so the Chassidishe, the minig was, as the minig is all over, that you put the offer Eretz Yisrael, you put the sand from Israel into the caver. And the Rebbe stopped them, and the Rebbe said, the Rebbe does not, that the Frierdiker Rebbe does not need the offer Eretz Yisrael. And there was someone from the family who started screaming, Kvayochel, big tzaddik, that she needs the Eretz Yisrael. And the Rebbe said, "Me darf es nicht." And the Rebbetzin said, "As mein Mann sagt das, altich mit him. Me darf das nicht. If my husband say not to put the Eretz Yisrael sand, we don't need to put." And that's how it was. So you could see that the discussions from the Rebbe, from the Rebbetzin to the Rebbe, and how they were thinking in the same way. So this is the Rebbetzins chinuch. Just the way that we said before about the Rebbetzin called over Draskin and told him what a Chassidishe Farbrengen should look like, and how the famous story, how Tovshin Zayin, I think, when the Rebbe turned over the cup, and the Rebbe told everyone Simchas Torah by night about the Farbrengen. When the Rebbe spoke about the Menorah, that the Menorah had the upside down cups, that way the Menorah was made, the Gavim were upside down, and the Rebbe turned over the cross. And the Rebbe said to everyone to turn over, and when the Bochim came in to tell, when the Meshamshim came in to the Rebbetzin after the Farbrengen, they told the Rebbetzin, so immediately she took a little bottle of mashke and she turned it over. Which the reason why she did it in front of them is not only because of Horus Kasha, but it was a chinuch. The Rebbe zog that gleich folgen, even she did it. And Bechlal, the Rebbetzin was very involved in two things. Sign in mechanech zayin people to discussion some Rebbe, and also to and also not only the mechanech people to discussion some Rebbe, but also she herself did brought people to the Rebbe. And I just mentioned before I invite the next speaker, just mention the famous stories from Reb Shem Rekeach, who is a relative of the Rebbetzin. His grandmother, Mrs. Klimberg, she was a second cousin of the Rebbetzin. She's the Eini Club that's of the Mittler Rebbe. She's the sister of Rebbe Shimon Schneers and the famous Shiva of Chibin. And how he tells the story that when he was a young kid, the Rebbetzin would tell his grandmother that Shemi has to go to the Farbrengen of the Rebbe. And the father was not a Lubavitcher, and they're pushing it off. And the Rebbetzin kept asking, "No, when is he going to go to the Farbrengen?" And finally, his father took him to Farbrengen, and because they were mishpocha, they were sitting on the bima behind the Rebbe. And the Rebbe turned around, and the Rebbe saw him and his brother. The Rebbe smiled. So Shemi says to his father, "The Rebbe smiled to me." And the father said, "Nah, the Rebbe, there was so many good people pushing on the beam, and the Rebbe looked on somebody, not about you." But the next morning, the Rebbetzin called his grandmother, and the first thing she said, the first thing the Rebbe came home after the Farbrengen, the Rebbe said, "Wir haben zwei neue Chassidim, unsere Kreuven." that this is the two little kids that came the first time to Farbrengen, and we have two new Chassidim, which again shows how the Rebbetzin was pushing and making people Chassidim. Poshat she drove her grandmother crazy. His grandmother crazy that she should take him to the Rebbe. Poshat Mikasha and Eden some Rebbe. And so the same also about how much the Rebbetzin was helping, was making sure to be mechanech Chassidim, to do mivtzoim. Mrs. Hager tells the famous story whenever she used to come to the Rebbetzin used to show her, tell her about the new mivtzoim from Rebbe, and she used to show her a video of the mitzvah things in Eretz Yisrael, how the Chabad in Eretz Yisrael goes to the army, and how much they do, how much inspired she was. She told her about Tzivus Hashem in England. She said, I know how Tzivus Hashem goes in America, but how does it go in England? And she said, yeah, my children are so excited, and they want to go hop in the rink. And the Rebbetzin said, my husband had a great idea, didn't he? And the Rebbetzin was so involved in everything that the Rebbe did. So it only shows Simon Negate, so Skashur, Simon Negate, so to Chino from Chassidim, Simon Negate to Mivtzoim, and the Rebbetzin herself did Mivtzoim. It's a famous story that the Rebbetzin herself made about Tshuva. Dr. Naimak, who used to go into the Rebbetzin, he was the Rebbetzin doctor, he came into the Rebbetzin, and he didn't even know who the Rebbetzin is, and the Rebbetzin he was sitting without a yarmulke, and then he heard it's the Rebbetzin, he apologized, and the Rebbetzin said, you have to wear a yarmulke because you want to wear. And then the Rebbetzin asked him, are you married? And he said, no. The Rebbetzin said, are you dating? He said, yes. The Rebbetzin said, well, promise me one thing, that you'll marry only a Jewish woman. And of course, he promised, but then took years and years. And the Rebbetzin said to him, when he promised, the Rebbe said, don't worry, it will be okay. You'll find the right wife. You'll find the right woman for you. And then 11 years after the stalkers of the Rebbetzin, he was really looking, he couldn't find anything. And finally, he went to the Rebbetzin, to the tzia, and he said, the Rebbetzin, I promise you I'll marry a Jew. And you promised me that things will go great. Please help me. And mamish that year, he found his wife, and now he has a full family with full children and everything. But she showed the Rebbetzin, she was mekasher Chassidim to the Rebbe, to Chassidus, and she was doing Baalei Teshuvos. She did the whole work of the Rebbe just exactly like the Rebbe himself. So without any further delay, I would like to invite now Reb Shlomo Zarchi, who was one of those people, one of those families that had a special kesher with the Rebbetzin and all of his tzedlach. He went through the Rebbetzin. So I would like to ask Reb Shlomo Zarchi to share with us a few stories and onwarm and the meilam with Benigate to the Rebbetzin. Reb Shlomo, are you online, Reb Shlomo? Is Reb Shlomo Zarchi on? Yeah, we see Reb Shlomo, but we don't hear you. We only see you now. You have to undo the, yeah. Oh, Reb Shlomo, Dr. L'chaim.
L'chaim.
Yeah, we hear you. Go ahead.
Ich komme nicht aus dem Nation sein noch, wo du gerät und Eliezer Laine, mein entire Chaber hat gerät. Ich komme aus dem Nation sein, so viel noch. Und wir beide sagen noch ein paar Wörter. Erst von der Geschichte, wo der Rebbe gerät, bevor die Berg in Yisrael, und der gerät hat, read in English, sag mal.
Maybe better to speak in English, but most of the majority of the crowd is American. So.
That's when the Rebbe said, you're schwarz, you're all schwarz, and what you call an Antochad B'lei B'chushbang, and all of this and everything. And the Rebbetzin is CHof Beis Shevat, zweimal Yudalef, yeah. But the pastor had gesagt, at the Rebbe, und es waren belangen Chassidim. And we all know, this was the punchline in the case. We saw it, we saw the video, when the Rebbetzin is saying her ages, the way after the Rebbetzin said that, the other lawyer threw his pencil, he felt that he lost the case now. And the judge also, in his speaking, also mentioned that this was the Rebbetzin said, that the Sfarim and the Rebbe belonged to Chassidim. The judge said it, and the Rebbe mentioned by the Farbrengen, after he spoke to him for CHof Beis, and was he gesagt, the Baal yahrzeit, the Rebbe und the Sfarim belongen to Chassidim. So he saw this. And before they were afraid for her aiders, the lawyers and our lawyers, and the Rebbe said, don't worry, she'll pass with flying colors. der Rebbe zur Palast, hat der Rebbetzin in Ganzen, ab ihr Edes, sie dachten from King Hill, she's going to pass it in Ganzen. So, as one attack with Rebbe Rashkim, and Gosler Gutman got hit with an orange in the kitchen in some assembly. It was at night, and the doctors were afraid, his eyesight was too. Rebbe Rashkim told me, let's go over to the Rebbe's house and mention the Rebbetzin is gebrochen. As we went to him, she heard it. They said, I'll call you back. Just give me your telephone. So I was hesitating. I was waiting, maybe she has to take a pen. And she felt it. I don't have to have a pen. In mijn gebed, ik denk number zeer good. You just tell me the number and I'll remember it.
So I didn't understand. Why did you went to the Rebbe's house? Because someone got hurt? Who got hurt?
Just the Gutnik, as a boch in Yeshiva, got very hurt in his eye. Somebody threw an orange, hit him in the eye. And he went to the hospital, and the doctor said, Shakorne, he might lose eyesight.
Where was the Rebbe? The Rebbe was home now already?
For the last me to come.
Where was the Rebbe? The Rebbe was in the house?
It was home. It was at night. I mean, in the kitchen, they were eating late at night. So the person said she remembers numbers very good. So we just had to tell her our number. In case she'll have what to tell us, she'll call us. She doesn't have to write down numbers, okay? But
so David Raskin was with you when you went to the Rebbe's house, or with you?
The person was with me. Yeah. And then, in general,
which year Berech was that story with Gutnik? Which year was that?
In the beginning of the Lamed.
Okay.
And what we call it, I have a few times stories, because in the first week in my house with my wife, so I didn't know what to do. So I called a little bit later, called the Rebbe, and I excused myself. I'm calling her. She said, that's what I'm here for. I'm calling you whenever you want, what time on the watch it is. I'm here to help people. This is
she said it to you? She
yes.
said it to you?
Yes. Call me whenever you need, and call me always. Sometimes in America, it's hard to call also because it's busy, the phone. Call me. I'm always ready for you.
She said about America that sometimes it's busy there. Yeah. Wow.
I called from him, and she always told me I should always feel comfortable to call her any time it is. That's what she's here for, to help her people. Yeah. I wouldn't say it more, people use that, but now you could say it. I called from him. Yeah, it was also was a Tisha B'Av. We all know, so also I had a story with a child, this thing helped very angst. And I stopped the Rebbe before he went to Pasach, Tisha B'Av. Biom Klein said, I can go in, you'll see the Rebbe from outside. And I told the Rebbe everything was coming off. The Rebbe said, it wasn't the Geldzach, like what Eliezer Laine was saying. I was quiet, and the Rebbe was saying it wasn't the Geldzach, and Geldzach. And
I didn't understand what you said. What the Rebbe said?
I was saying she can't breathe, she can do this, she can do that. The Rebbe said, well, what's the Geldzach, with the Gelkeit?
Gelkeit. The baby was genders. Okay.
The baby was not genders. The Rebbe was saying all the sorrows that she had. The Rebbe was all saying it wasn't the Gelkeit, it wasn't the Gelkeit. Look, the Rebbe wanted to turn over everything to Gelkeit, no. And give him a bracha, she turned to Chupim, was a very special bracha. That night, with Tisha B'Av, the Rebbetzin fell in the house. And nobody was home. And everybody was downstairs saying Eicha. From Biom Klein walking to Merkez, and he called the Rebbetzin telephone. He and from the Gandhi all ran to the Rebbetzin house. The Rebbetzin couldn't call, but she crept on the floor to the elevator. There was a telephone in the elevator. And she
the Rebbetzin fell.
Yeah.
Okay.
And she crept on the floor until the elevator. In the elevator, there was a telephone. So then, from the Gandhi, Biom Klein, they all ran to the Rebbetzin house. Later, when the Rebbe came home, the Rebbe went to the hospital together with the Rebbetzin. And in the hospital, the Rebbe was asking from the Gandhi about me, what's my diplomenense. He says, he doesn't know, he didn't see me. This when you at the kindergirl. Huh?
So the Rebbe asked Schellenberg Gansberg, what's happening with your child?
Yeah. So in the hospital, so you're saying he doesn't know, he didn't see me. She met the kindergirl. Noch einmal. He doesn't know anything. There
But
was
the Rebbe
also,
said again that they told me the child is jaundice.
no, they told him. Who told him?
Yeah.
And later, like a few days later, she became girl. When you did this to the Rebbe said, "Girl is a normal Sache." No, the Rebbe wanted to change everything over. So
Geldker is a normale Sache. That's jaundice is a normal thing. That's not that the Rebbe turned the whole thing around. That it's all about the jaundice and it's nothing.
okay. So, look what funny. Then a few times he was in the Rebbe's house, and the Rebbe went out of the house. He told some began to tell me he's going to the ale and mention me at the ale. From that day was a very hard day. And another time, he called me, what's going on? But the Rebbe left the house. Again, he asked for Smach de Brunenisse. When the Rebbetzin just came up in the hospital, but the Rebbe, the leg and them, and by them came again. But when the
So
Rebbe,
I just want to explain to the Olam what you said, that Bishas, the Rebbetzin was in the hospital after she fell on Tisha B'Av night, and she took her to the hospital. The Rebbe is thinking about your child. The Rebbe kept asking Shalom Ber Ganzer, what's macht the Plemenitze? How's you? Because Shalom Ber is basically your shwager, your brother-in-law.
my brother, yeah. The Kopani, I know in the hospital, there's one to Machlekit and Zalman Garari and Shon Beganbu. So Shon Beganbu is long right. Whom did the Rebbetzin say? Whom did the Rebbe say why he didn't go to the hospital with the Rebbetzin the last time? Every time the Rebbe used to go to the hospital, not every time, most of the times. So he told, so long right, I think I wanted to know why. So I'm not going to tell you. How much I begged him to tell me, he wouldn't tell me. Before they went to the hospital with the Rebbetzin, the Rebbe himself went in. She went into the Rebbe's room privately, and they spoke together. And then the Rebbe called him from the Began, was mad by him, why he's not going to the hospital. And also, he should call him every 10 minutes from the hospital. She called the Rebbe every 10 minutes from the hospital. But the last time, after it happened, he didn't want to call, he couldn't call the Rebbe. So he asked Dr. Feldman he should call him. 5 months later, the Rebbe gave him a chelik. I just will gebeten, call him alles en nur, das was ich das weten. He said I could call the Rebbe, and I'm a zok, mit that folgen. Da gaan je weer met dat folgen. I told you to call me, you should have called me. Yeah, okay. But call upon him, and
So, but Shalom Ber never told you why what the Rebbe said, why he doesn't go to the hospital.
he didn't want to say it. How much I asked him from every side, he didn't want to say why. But there was a reason why. And when the Rebbe went down the steps, you were there maybe, when they brought the Rebbetzin Oram.
Yeah, I was there outside, yeah.
Yeah, the Rebbe's face, when he was walking down the steps, it was a American cheer, yeah. But called upon him, and the Rebbetzin was sick before this a few weeks, but she didn't tell nobody. She didn't tell the Rebbe shouldn't have it on his head. Till we found out, the Rebbe, if you remember, went home in the middle of the day, one time home, to see how the Rebbetzin is. He found out that she's not feeling well. And he went home. And the next day, Zalman brought 2 doctors to the Rebbetzин's house, and they said she has to go to the hospital. And in the hospital, she should bring her a glass of water, and she made a bracha, and she told us, the people that gave her the water, and she pissed away. So she pissed away, they called the Rebbetzins, it's making a shahakel and drinking some water. And we know that the Rebbetzins and the Sarah, Rebbetzin, Rivka, all the same way. But there's a lot of stories about these things, but not gay. But the Rebbetzin, everybody knows the story that after the Rebbe's chuppah, the Rebbe told somebody to send a telegram to Rostov. There's a special person there. In 3 words in Russian, they should give over to the Rebbe Rashab. The 3 words were that the Russian from Rebbe or Tchuzhifilzer. If anybody knows here Russian, say those 3 words. It's Ashiba Rusta Dreiberta. The cancer bissel.
No, what? Say it again, the words in Russian.
I don't know how to say it in Russian. In Yiddish, the word is the Russian from the Rebbe to Tchuzhifilzer. And that's what the Rebbe, Rebbe right after the chuppah of the Rebbe, Jason schicken ein Telegramm und zu mentionen, als Tov so gleich gehen auf den Ale und tell the Rebbe Ashab that the Rotten from the Rebbe to ausgeführt sich. So we see how much it was.
You once told me the story that the Rebbetzin used to sit down with the Rebbe and give the Rebbe tzedlach.
Yeah. This is yeah, that when the Rebbe used to come home, something to eat, and not every time he went home he ate something was fasting, but he made for people that he's coming home. But lots of time he came home, he ate, and the Rebbetzin used to make piles of all the tzedlach, and bring the Rebbe tzedlach. The Rebbe should answer them. Then when the Rebbe came back, he brought back tzedlach. But she was busy the whole time bringing tzedlach and taking back tzedlach and finish. Also, by the Suda was a very special thing. There were people that bothered the Rebbetzin to ask a bracha by the Rebbe for their families. And she wasn't, and she couldn't ask. But what did she do? She started speaking with Sean Beganberg about this family and what's coming off. And the Rebbe used to hear. Sometimes the Rebbe used to run in the middle, but total doesn't yet. And that's how she got the Rebbe involved in that family. She did it with Chochmah. She told Sean Beganberg, she was speaking to him privately. So that's how she got the Rebbe involved with this and this family, with this and this baroque, with this and this person. She was very special. Once, like Be'emer, by the Rebbe's house, there was a whole bunch of ladies from Williamsburg, and they missed the Rebbe going out of the house. The Rebbe went away for 770. They came to is the Rebbe brought for children. They were very down by themselves. So the Rebbe came down and said, "Why are you people here?" He told the Rebbe, they came like Be'emer, as Gula, just for children, and they came to is the Rebbe, and they missed the Rebbe, so they're very down by themselves. The Rebbe told them they should write down all their names and everything. They should go to this and this doctor in Manhattan and say that I sent you.
Wow.
So 9 of the 10 people went and 1 didn't go. And as the 9 people came to the doctor, he knew already to expect them, and all 9 had children. The 10th one didn't go, didn't have a child. But the first 9 all had children. Yeah. The Rebbe said many times when Purim and the girls from Achachan used to bring Shalachmon to the Rebbetzin, the Rebbe used to tell them, go ask by the Rebbetzin of Baruch. She could bench better than me. Her father was a Rebbe, v'chulu. She asked by her the Baruch, not to ask by me the Baruch. She asked it by her. Yeah. And there's many stories like this. She, the whole time, she didn't want the Rebbe to have Agnes Nefesh. As the story was telling before with the doctors, and they were saying to go to Rabbanon should paskin, the Rebbe should go to the hospital or not. So the Rebbe said he should not go to Rabbanon. The Rebbe always listens to Rabbanon.
We can't hear you. Your video is frozen for a minute. We'll wait. We still cannot hear you.
My husband.
Okay, now we can hear you. We didn't hear till now. Can you repeat what you said? We haven't heard you. We have problem. Now we can hear. No, again, that's not working. I guess he's off.
Yeah, you don't have a doctor for my husband. So then you remind themselves that by Shusam and Shul is the doctor based on the doctor remember. You called him, and that's how they got him. But the Rebbetzin came over. You don't have a doctor for my husband. Yeah, for the Rebbe, yes. Yeah.
Wow.
Kostet gesund. Wo sind die Chassidim? Where is everybody? Yeah. Upon him, there's many stories like this, yeah. This is a famous story that everybody knows that Shon Beganberg told me. He went into the Rebbe's house in Purim just to see what's going on, and she saw the Rebbetzin staying by the sink and putting cold water on her hand. So, Rebbetzin was geschehen. I can't tell you. She's not going to tell me the Rebbetzin come into the Suda. I'm going to tell the Rebbe something happened. No? She said, I'll tell you, I fell down, I hurt my hand. I can't move. I wouldn't call water. I don't want the Rebbe should know before the Farbrengen shouldn't be on his head, but the Farbrengen should be able to Farbrengen with Chassidim.
Wow.
So he said, you sit down. I'll tell the Rebbe, I just walked into the house, and I'll serve the table, and nothing ever happened. And as soon as the Rebbe went to the Farbrengen, so back called the doctor, and he came to the house, and he saw that her hand is broken. And he sat at the table. When the Rebbe came home, 4 a.m, he was coming home, the kinder and gas couldn't hold themselves in. And he told the Rebbe simple balance, she broke her hand. So the Rebbe ran up the steps from the gun, the was passiert. Said, I can't tell you. So I promised the Rebbe, I'm not going to tell you. Ich weiß schon andere. Und ich erzählen, dass die andere Sachen mir nicht erzählen. Die Mensch, alles, erzähl sie dir. Ich sage klar, alles, was sie gewinnt. And the Rebbe sat till 8, 9 o'clock. When she left to a doctor, the Rebbe went to some 70, he went to Eila day.
Into the oil. Uh-huh.
Eila day. And that's why Zongarai, the Rebbe told Zongarai, people, the Chassidim don't know how to respect from the Ganvuk. If it wasn't for the Ganvuk, I couldn't have Yechidus all night, I couldn't Farbrengen, I couldn't do all the things. I wrote a Kshuva. I had to take care of the Rebbetzin. Since he takes care of the Rebbetzin, I could übergeben sich zu Chassidim and to everything. So long as I right away ran from the Ganvuk, I want to pay you money. I want to pay your salary. So I don't want to take from you any money. And the Rebbetzin, we didn't take. We're worried about you. We'll take care of you. No, fine. But call on him. The Rebbetzin didn't want to tell the Rebbe it shouldn't be nothing on the Rebbe's head. When you Farbrengen to Chassidim, you should have a clear head. Yeah. There's many stories about this and different things.
So they showed the mysterious nefesh of the Rebbetzin for Chassidim, for Chassidus, that the Rebbe should be able to Farbrengen with a chloride cup, even though she just broke her hand.
Also, we know that in Tafshin Yud, the Rebbe told the man beim Rebbe, she take it in seas. The Rebbe didn't want so much. And she said, you want everything that my father built up, Shabbat Choreb? The Rebbe said, I'm the last person that wants to make Choreb. This was the Shvel Gemach. But fine, and the Rebbetzin pushed, and the Rebbetzin knew what means becoming a Rebbe. It means say there's no more house, there's no more husband, there's no more anything. Rebbetzin, he began to Chassidim and to the barrage 24 hours a day and 12 hours. And she pushed the Rebbe to take the Nesias. Reb Shmuli should tell me, he used to tell the Rashag, what do you need it for? It's good for the Rebbe, a button. He wouldn't be able to sleep at night. She took a talk, she took a nach, but a Rebbe, and you saw the other thing. It's not for you. You're a smart man. Get away from all these things. Yeah. And Anna did this negate to say, but Reb Shmuli told me that when they advertised in the newspaper that there's going to be a Farbrengen, we'll know that the Rebbe said should take it out, but not that. That Barry went into Reb Shmuli's room and banged on the table a few times. In them to minor. That's minor. How do you make a Farbrengen? You try, and them to minor. Yeah.
I didn't understand the story. Who came into Reb Shmuli Witten?
Barry.
No.
And he banged on the table a few times. And he said, in them to minor. This is the nation that the Rebbe
you take away my thing.
Yeah.
Right. This was before you Shvat of Shinid Aleph.
Yeah. So we see what was in their head, you know. It was pushed away. Fine. But Kol told him that we see what was in their head. And Kol told me he was banging away in the table by him. Yeah. Okay. Kol told him, we know that the Rebbetzin, her whole life was to help Chassidim. It's hard to speak about the Rebbetzin like we know. The Rebbetzin was much higher than we think. We don't understand her. She was a pnimi, like the Rebbe was a pnimi, like the Pig Rebbe said. Why do you print the Rebbe's memoriam with the trouble of the Rebbe Rashab? The Tatra and a pnimi, the Rebbe's a pnimi, the Pig Rebbe said. And the Rebbetzin, she was the real pnimi. She was a pnimi. Like when they asked about the Edis, when did you hear the last time she be Bachashoy? She said yes, when the Rebbe was customary. They said it should be Bachashoy. No, she was. We don't even know who the Rebbe was. The Rebbe said she's much higher than people think. The Rebbe was a higher person, a pnimistic person, anesthetic person. We don't even know. We don't have the big Chassidim to understand the darga of the Rebbetzin. She was very special, you know. And it finished out. There was once quite special sixel. Where should the Rebbetzin be after 120 years? So we all know that her sister wanted to be next to the Bubba. She didn't want to be next to her mother. Because she helped that the last Rebbetzin, the Rebbe Shetel and Sorah. And the last Rebbe was the Rebbe Rashad. Her father was a father. She wanted to be next. The Rebbe didn't mix with the pale. She not buried her, and the question that came to the Rebbe, where should they put the Rebbetzin? By her mother or by the Bubba, by the Rebbe Rashad? The Rebbe said, not involved in this, is the Chassidishe. So the Chassidishe put her next to the Bubba, and it's also across the Rebbe. And the Rebbe gave everyone Chassidishe another $1 by dollars, meaning the Rebbe has Yadliam zugetroffen, where the Rebbe should be put.
Basically, the Mechaven given.
Wow.
That's beautiful.
And there's more stories. If I'm not mentioned, Reden,
Yeah.
Reden als ik wil. Wie is de Rebbetzin, ik zal helpen. Als zijn we hier is een Shalom Lamata, de Rebbetzin, de Rebbe, veel voorkomen. But Chassidim, we don't even know who the Rebbetzin was. So that's why it's very hard to speak. There's more stories. And all these stories you see are godless. But it's all stories, but the Rebbetzin is much higher than this. The Rebbetzin always waited for the Rebbe to come home. He never went to sleep before the Rebbe came home. And one time, the Rebbe came a little bit late Friday night, and Rebbe Brennan was coming from somebody's house across the street, and the Rebbe pulled him over, Shabbos after Glattik in 770. He said, how far you know, because the Rebbe is not home yet, he should have been home already. He went down to Albany Avenue, he went down to Brooklyn Avenue, he saw the Rebbe from far coming. Okay. He went up Rebbetzin and told the Rebbe is coming from far. And why do he want to go away? He said, Rebbe, don't worry, you can't leave a lady by herself on the Avenue. The Rebbe was staying in Brooklyn and Pleasant, a half a block from the house. She was worried. And also it was from Australia then when Pashan had a heart attack in 1770. They were staying there for half an hour, and they ever called the mayor holiday. You should go to the Rebbetzin, not to worry that he's okay. And there was more stories that Rebbe come home, and she called the Rebbe till he found. She was worried the whole day and the whole night. She was worried only about the Rebbe. This was her whole life. And one time, the Rebbe went into the alley, and there was a shachar there, and she started to scream. And the boss and the kids opened the window. They saw how the Rebbe ran out of his house. The Rebbe was screaming at him by his first name. He should go right back. The Rebbe should not be outside because she shouldn't get hurt. She worried about the Rebbe the whole time. And I told you in the morning today, I had two brothers-in-law that were very close to the Rebbetzin. One she called Schoenberg, one she called Gansberg. And he always felt bad. Why they call him Gansberg, not by Mendel's first name? So maybe the Rebbetzin Friedrich Shabbos is only one. In the house is only.
So I just explained that story. You're saying that there were two brothers Gansberg. One was Schellenberg Gansberg, one was Mendel Gansberg. They both worked in the Rebbetzins house. But the Rebbetzin, to one she called Schellenberg, and to the other one she wouldn't call him by name. She would call him Gansberg.
So the question, he always felt weird. Why they call him Gansberg, not by his first name? So one time she said, "Interested to know the Einazar." His name is only one person. There's no other person.
You can't mention that name in the house.
The house, yeah. Because, so we see how the Rebbetzin was, it began some Rebbe, it began some Chassidim, and she was especially holy lady, it began for you, and Chassidim never appreciated, never knew her great milas. And there's so many stories more to say now, but it's not here to play, there's a whole bunch of people have to speak. Rika Zolzheim, and how the Rebbetzin, she once, I had a child in the hospital, she called me 10 times. How's she doing, the baby? Yeah.
When your child was in the hospital, Rebbetzin called you 10 times to find out how's the baby doing.
And call me. I don't want to call the Rebbe. Who's I meant to call the Rebbe? But when the Rebbe wanted to know when she comes from the hospital, by day, by night. They want to know all the problem. And as I told you also, by day, what I want to say, I forgot what I wanted to say. It was a story, yeah. And
So you said the Rebbe
he was
called
worried Pesach. She was worried Pesach. The Rebbe should go home on Pleasant Street. Since the Rebbe doesn't take his medicine, his heart medicine. And so 2 days before Pesach, she said she has to make the Pesach in the library. The library is full of comments. She couldn't do nothing. She asked from the Gandhi to call us. Maybe we have a guy that can do it because she can't take it. The Rebbe should have to walk to Pleasant Street without taking the medicine. So I had a Russian guy, I give her. I said, to wash my floors and the wall. I'm like, I said, Pesach, he has to wash. So I sent him away to the Rebbe. He worked 48 hours straight. And they was able to probably Pesach there. And
in the library.
Called us, she thanked us. The Rebbe was not worried, the Rebbe shouldn't have to walk 2 blocks. This was her whole life. She, a Pashport und den Rebbe gesund, we should have a Rebbe, and that was her whole life. So we should appreciate who the Rebbe was, who she is, and who the Rebbe and everybody. And we should be Chassidim and real Mikoshorim. And the Rebbe gave away his life for us, and the Rebbetzin gave away life for us. Mit alle Tanten zusammen zum Tod came. Another story. Yeah.
Amen, L'chaim. Yasher koach, Rabbi Zachi. Was very, very inspiring, very geschmack. Yasher koach, L'chaim. Well, we'll go to our next speaker in a few minutes, just to share one story that the famous shliach from Minnesota, Rabbi Zangewald, told the story how he used to go behind the Rebbe as a bocher. He used to go behind the Rebbe to belate the Rebbe to go home. And it was the night of Pesach, was the only night that the Rebbe and the Rebbetzin used to go together. And the Rebbetzin used to wait for the Rebbe on Union Street by the Kollel, and they used to go from there together to the house. So the two bochim were there, and they saw how the Rebbe and the Rebbetzin, the Kollel building was a new building that the Rebbe bought, and the Rebbe and the Rebbetzin stood for 15 minutes, and they were talking about the Kollel building and pointing out what can be done. Mamish, they were like, the Rebbetzin and the Rebbe were talking together, what kind of construction, what kind of way we could make the Kollel, the building for the Kollel. And it showed how the Rebbe and the Rebbetzin worked together in all of their peulos, in all of their inyanim. And it's a famous picture that there is how the Rebbetzin is sitting in the Rebbe's room, and she's reading. You could see that she's reading loud a letter. Her mouth is open. She's reading a letter, and the Rebbe stands with another letter in his hand and looking on her and listening. But that's the perfect picture to see what the Rebbe and the Rebbetzin together, how they worked in all of their work together. And the Rebbetzin was involved in everything. As a famous thing that Rebbetzin said, that before the Rebbe is coming out with a new miftzah, with a new campaign, he discusses and thinks on every detail to make sure that it will be successful. Which we see that the fact that the Rebbetzin said it, that means that the Rebbe was discussing everything with the Rebbetzin before everything was done. And so we see in general they're all shaykhs from the Rebbe and the Rebbetzin, and the famous and Bechal, the way the Rebbe spoke about the Rebbetzin, about Gadlus, and Rebbe Shlomo Zachi mentioned here. So just to say one story about what Rabbi Klafman said a few years ago, how the last Rosh Hashanah, then he called the Rebbetzin, and he said, he asked the Rebbetzin for a bracha, the Rebbetzin gave him a bracha, and then he gave a bracha to the Rebbetzin. As soon as he started, as soon as he started the bracha, the Rebbetzin said, no, now is not a time for individual. Now is a time for everyone, for the klal. And he didn't know why the Rebbetzin didn't let him to say a bracha. And it's interesting, this was the Istalkos, that year was the Istalkos. And interesting, the same thing exactly happened in Tovshin Yud, when the Frierdiker Rebbe, when the Chassidim used to come in with a pan kloli, so it used to be always a bracha the Frierdiker Rebbe used to give. And Tovshin Yud, the Frierdiker Rebbe said, before they gave him the pan, when they gave him the pan, there used to be a pan kloli b'chlal, and then a special pan for the Frierdiker Rebbe. So when they gave him the pan, so the Frierdiker Rebbe said, now is not a time for a yochid, now is a time for the klal. It was exactly the same words the Rebbetzin said, and the Rebbe wrote in Aore, this is the only time the Frierdiker Rebbe said that kind of lashon before he took his pan, which we see clearly again of the Rebbetzins Gedusha and the Rebbetzins holiness, how she was as mamish at the dargi of the Rabbeim in every way possible, and you could see also the phone call that Menachem Yunik had with the Rebbetzin. You could see how the Rebbetzin gave him the same heroes how the Rebbe was. Like he was talking about an operation and about to use some needles. The Rebbetzin said not to think of operation, not to think of any needles, and just and then the bittul that she had, also the very same style of the Rebbe, like her bittul, she said, "Ich bin nicht kein Zoger." I'm not a person to make a decision, but she said, but if the situation is so bad for you, maybe you'll have to leave. So it's kind of the same style of the Rebbe's bittul. When the Rebbe was by the Frierdiker Rebbe, the same bittul that the Rebbe had to the Frierdiker Rebbe, the same bittul she had to the Rebbe, and at the same time she had the same kedusha, the same holiness. She gave brachas, and how she told Menachem Yunik, everything will be okay. You shouldn't worry. And then when he said to her, this was that year when it was the first time when we celebrated Chof Chassidim in public. It was Tov Shem Vov, and then I had the schus to be one of the bochim who made the Farbrengen, and we made a tshuva, and we gave in to the Rebbe on Friday. This was a tshuva about the Yevel of 45 years that the Rebbe and the Rebbetzin came to America. So that very same year, Menachem Yunik, when he called the Rebbetzin, he told the Rebbetzin at the end of his phone call, after the whole conversation about his private life, about his private issue, he said to the Rebbetzin that he want to give mazel tov to the Rebbetzin. The Rebbe and the Rebbetzin came to America, Shabbos, Chof Chassidim, and the Rebbetzin immediately, she didn't want to even talk about it. The response was, "Ich liebe gem the man." I'll tell my husband. Then he said, I have Yom Holodes this Shabbos also. He said, "Ich liebe gem the man." Everything he said at the end of that phone call was "Ich liebe gem the man," just like the way the Rebbe would say "Asker Latzin." That's how she said. Everything he said "Mazel tov for the Chof Chassidim, ich liebe gem the man." He said, "I have Yom Holodes, ich liebe gem the man." Was everything like you could see that the Rebbetzins relationship with the Rebbe, the iskashos and the bittul was mamish the way the Rebbe with the Frierdiker Rebbe. So. And as the famous vote that Dr. Feldman said, and we're going to hear now from Rabbi Levi Shem Tov, if he's available, if he's on with us. So the famous saying that Dr. Feldman asked the Rebbe, what's the difference between the Rebbe's brachas and the Rebbetzins brachas? And the Rebbe said that my brachas need to make a kli, need to make a keli, need to make a vessel for my brachas. For the Rebbetzins brachas, you don't need to make a vessel. And there's a famous saying. But the Rebbe said, Rosh Chodesh Kislev, and later we'll hear from Rabbi Levi Azimov about it, how the Rebbe said that the chiluk from the Rabbeim and the Rebbetzin, the chiluk from the Oves and the Imoris, that the fathers and the mothers, that the Imoris, the Sarah, Rivka, Rochel, Valeah, that they brought down the lofty ideas of the Avraham Yitzchak Yankim, that Moshe Avraham Avinu wanted that Ishmael should be Lu Yishmael Yichel Lefanecha, and the Sarah knew that the time didn't come yet, and in Elam Hazeh it'll happen when Mashiach comes, but now it's not happening. So she brought down, and Abisha says Shema B'Keila, that the Rebbetzins, that the Imoris, they brought down Lemato the Amshochas from the Oves, from the Rabbeim, from the Nisim. And that same thing happened with our Rebbetzin, that she was like a mother. And there are several and many stories of the Rebbetzin, and the very famous story is what happened for Beis Kislev, the famous thing, how the Rebbe was very upset that the Bochum was standing outside, and the Rebbe wanted that should be, as the Rebbe wrote on the zettel in the morning of Beis Kislev, the Rebbe wrote to Aguch, that he doesn't want anyone to be outside because he wants that the Sforim should be given, like Luchas Shnias Bechashoi in silent, and Belachash, and nobody should be there, in order should be Nitzchi, and the Bochum didn't understand how important this was to the Rebbe, and they stood outside, and the Rebbe was screaming, and then Shabbos, the Rebbe said how he got over the head, why was he screaming on the Bochum? They only want to be Mesameach, and we know from the sources that the Rebbetzin was the one who said it to the Rebbe. So we could see that the Rebbetzin was like the mother who was trying to protect the Bochum by the Rebbe, that even that the Bochum meant well, and how the Rebbetzin said to Levi Bistritsky about his son who came running from Israel, and his father was very upset that the Rebbe such a nefesh, and the Rebbetzin said to Levi, take it easy on him, that by other places the Bochum come, they want to make trouble, they go to see the sports and the games, and here by us the Bochum make trouble, they dance with the Rebbe, so be easy on him. So we see that the Rebbe was like the mother. That was her pain. So anyway, Akoponim, at this point, if Rabbi Levi Shem Tov is with us, we would like to ask Rebbe Levi Shem Tov, who had a schus that him and his wife had a special shaykhs with the Rebbetzin. So if Rabbi Shem Tov is with us, we would ask him to say l'chaim and to share with us a few words. Rabbi Shem Tov, are you there? Now we will move on to the next speaker, but let's see, we'll give him a chance because he wrote to me before. Let's give him a chance, give us a second. All right, probably Levi Shem Tov will be a little bit later. So we will move on to our next speaker.
How much later?
Are you here? Levi Shem Tov is here?
Yes, I think I am. I don't know. I see you.
Levi Shem Tov, are you here? I can't see
you. Hear me?
We hear you, yeah. Oh,
you don't see me?
Go for it. So please, Reb Levi, I know that you and your wife had a special shaykhs with the Rebbetzin, as your father-in-law was the doctor, the Rebbe's doctor. So I would like to ask you to say l'chaim and share with us a few stories about the Rebbetzin.
Okay, you're gonna have to give me. Okay. So we'll start it off. I want to start off with l'chaim. Here by Sheva Brachas. L'chaim Bracha. This is Heim Nacht is a yahrzeit von Malkeinu, unser Königin, Rebbetzin Chaim Mushka. Today is tremendous oir v'chayis and brachas that she's connecting to each and every one of us, and she's giving us. You hear me?
Yes, we hear every word.
Yeah, and as she's connecting to us and giving us brachas, may the brachas be with us. And the Mitzvah Shem B'Kadeh Mamish Dalamata B'Gov Gashmi, we should see the Rebbe and the Rebbetzin together with Mashiach. L'chaim Bracha.
Amen. L'chaim, l'chaim.
So this goes back to English of Seder, yeah?
English, yeah.
1948 to 1949, the Frierdiker Rebbe called in Bocher, Chassid, Zalman Posner, and the Frierdiker Rebbe asked him to go down to Nashville, Tennessee. At that time, states of the word 5,000 shluchim, the big kinnis of shluchim, and it wasn't such a popular thing. And going down to Nashville, Tennessee is almost ekvelt, like the end of the world. And he hesitated. And the Frierdiker Rebbe said to him that the Neshama, before it comes to Lamata, the Neshama hesitates. The Neshama doesn't want to come to Lamata. The Neshama says, over here, Lamaila, it's a Vadim, it's a Lichtik. And why should I want to go down? And the Neshama is told that your job is to go down Lamata, Omachin Vadim, Omachin Lichtik, make it warm and light up. Bring light. And the Frierdiker Rebbe was pointing with his finger, and Rebbe Zalman Posner got the message to go down south and to bring the warmth and bring the light. So either Tafshin Ches or Tafshin Tes, before he got engaged or as he got engaged, he went to Nashville, Tennessee, became the Rav of Shula. About 18 or 16 years later, 15 years later, an American couple came to live in Nashville, Tennessee. The husband was going to medical school, and this couple felt the warmth, felt the Eid Chassidus, the light, from Rabbi Zalman Posner and his wife, Aleim HaShalom. This couple was my Shver and Shviger, Aleim HaShalom, Dr. Feldman and Miriam Feldman. First time I heard this story, and I told it in my Chabad house, my in-laws was sitting there, and I remember turning around after I told the story and looked at my shver and said, "Given the Moy Shalish," she was reminding himself of those years where Reb Zalman and his Rebbetzin brought the light and brought the warmth of Chassidus and the Rebbe, and I saw him crying like.
So he was from
this,
Nashville. Your shver was from Nashville.
He went to medical school in Nashville, Tennessee. That's where they went after they got married. They lived in New York, but they moved to Nashville, and that's where he went to.
Reb Zalman was Mekaravim. Reb Zalman was Mekaravim.
Zalman's wife. Yeah, my wife was born in Nashville, Tennessee, and her brother, Alav Shalom, Yitzchak was born in Nashville, Tennessee also. Anyway, then they moved to the Pelham Parkway, and they put the kids in yeshiva. They looked in the telephone book and said Lubavitch Yeshiva. They said, I'd like Lubavitch in Nashville, Tennessee. They put the kids in Lubavitch Yeshiva in the Bronx. Rabbi Oldtime, and Mark Oldtime and his wife ran the Bronx Yeshiva. And they got more and more closer to Lubavitch, more closer to the Rebbe. They would go to Farbrengen sometimes, and they were close to the Rebbes and the Malamdim and the teachers, and they used to have shiurim in their homes. But they lived near Einstein. That's where my shver had his practice. Like his practice, and he was also connected to Einstein. Tov Shin Lamed Zion. They celebrated Simchas Torah in the Bronx, and it took about 10 minutes. And after Akafis, my shviga looked at each other and said, Akafis for 10 minutes, Nisha Akafis. That's what I'm supposed to do. They decided right then and there that the next year they're going to go to Crown Heights. And they rented the basement for Rabbi President Street, and they celebrated Shoshana Kippur, Simchas Torah in Crown Heights. They bought seats. They had seats in 770. I believe Shapiro Allah Shalom was the principal in Altada, Vice President Altada. He was very, very close with them. He was a Rebbe and a very, very close friend of the family. And then Shminat Sedes Lamed Ches. I remember this very well. I was a young boy. I'm standing on the bleachers, like opposite from where the Rebbe's Farbrengen was. And I see with by the Rebbe's place, I see they're bringing a kvart with water to the Rebbe. And I was shocked. What's going on? Kvart, water with the Rebbe, Shmina a couples. I didn't say anything. Nobody said anything. But I'm looking, I knew something doesn't make sense. And a few minutes later, I see they bring a chair to the Rebbe, which also the Rebbe never sat back office. 2 minutes later, I get Shrei, the Rebbe in his ear, and everybody out of 70. It was crazy. The Rebbe is gesund, the Rebbe is nicht gesund, the Rebbe is gesund. It was very, very tough, especially for young ones. They asked the doctors to come see the Rebbe, and my shver was called to go see the Rebbe. It comes to see the Rebbe, and a lot of the doctors that came to see the Rebbe, they told the Rebbe has to go to the hospital. And the Rebbe said he's not going. And a lot of the doctors, the Rebbe said he's not going, they walked out and they left. My shver saw what was going on, Dr. Feldman saw what was going on, he comes in, and he sees what's happening, and he goes over to the Rebbe and says, why doesn't the Rebbe want to go to the hospital? Whatever we can do here could be pretty good, but it's nothing compared to being in the hospital. So the Rebbe said to him, you see these sfarim? You see these walls? Desk and the walls and the sfarim that heard the cries, Sidin and Yidden, this is going to bring me my refuah. And immediately, my shver, who lived in the Bronx, came a few times to see the Rebbe, never really communicated with the Rebbe, became a total chassid and mekusher to the Rebbe. He right away, they brought him his bag of medical things from the house, whatever he had, and he was for the next 48 hours with the Rebbe. And that's it. For him, it was the Rebbe and the Rebbe only. And he and Dr. Richter were the two doctors that stayed there, and they made up that they're each going to take some time off to get some sleep. Shver told the story that he put his head down, and as he put his head down, got a bang, the Rebbe had a second heart attack. Of course, they got up again. He got up again, and they were with the Rebbe. And then I think I heard some of it told the Rebbe. You told before. I don't know if it was Yaskut said it, that the Rebbetzin was there, and the Rebbe came down, and they wanted to sedate the Rebbe, and Rebbetzin said, "What does he say?" And they said he doesn't want to go. And the Rebbetzin said, I always know, since I know him, he's always had a clear head and knew exactly what he wanted. And if he doesn't want to go, we're not going to go. Doctors said that Baruch Hashem, the Rebbe did not go to the hospital because that Chas Hashem could have been worse. Well, Mamish, the Rebbetzin went after Rabbi Krinsky and said, Rabbi Krinsky, maybe you know so many people. Don't you know a good doctor for my father, my husband? And Rabbi Krinsky said that I couldn't remember, and then all of a sudden he reminded me of Dr. Arya Weiss. They called Dr. Arya Weiss, and he immediately came from Chicago, Shabbat Shabbos, and he came to be with the Rebbe, and he was the Rebbe's cardiologist. And it's important to mention that Dr. Arya Weiss stayed with the Rebbe for a very long time. I don't know exactly how long, but long enough that the people in his practice and a lot of the patients left him. And it's even given most of Nefesh got to the Rebbe. So even though it cost him financially and his practice, for him, that wasn't the point. The point was to be with the Rebbe. After Solsteda, well, I should say one more thing. My father, Dr. Feldman, was a pediatrician. The Rebbe once told him that his mission in life is to be the doctor of the children in Crown Heights. But he specialized in cardiology. And he once was talking, he said, I don't know why I had to get the cardiology fellowship. It never comes to use. But then when the Rebbe had a heart attack, he realized why he had to study cardiology and get a degree in cardiology. After he was stated, his family, the Feldmans went back to the Bronx. My father had his patients, but every other night, he used to come spend many hours with the Rebbe in the Rebbe's room, together with the Rebbe. That was like a shift, I think it was 12 to 6 a.m. He used to spend with the Rebbe every night, and then come back home, get a few hours, and see his patients in the Bronx. They moved to Crown Heights a year later on the tests, and from then on, Dr. Feldman became the Rebbe and the Rebbetzins' personal physician. When the Rebbe didn't feel well, the Rebbetzin would call the house and say, it's Mrs. Schneerson from President Street. And she'd speak to my father-in-law, Dr. Feldman, and say, the Rebbe needs to see you. He said, drop everything and go see the Rebbe. If the Rebbe didn't feel well, the Rebbe would have one of the Chassidim call Dr. Feldman and immediately drop everything to go see the Rebbe. My in-laws had 4 kids at the time, and then the Rebbe gave a bracha, and they had another girl named Rivki. She's married to Rabbi Kiva Nussbaum. They have their own 10 children. Now they have one of the daughters got married. They have now Baruch Hashem a couple, which them Aden Sarfstein, and before Rivki was born, my shver was in the room with the Rebbetzin, with the Rebbe. And the Rebbe said, what's doing? And she was already in labor, but they thought it'll take another few hours. So Ashra said, yeah, it's going to take a little while. And the Rebbe said, I think you should go now. Maybe things are happy now. And my father said, no, I think we have time. And the Rebbe said, I think you should go now, because maybe it's happening now. Wow. And after the Rebbe said it the second time, and he ran, came to the hospital right before the baby was born. After the baby Rivki was born, the Rebbetzin gave her a dress, and my wife Sarah got to bring her sister to do the Rebbetzin. And she spent some time. The Rebbetzin wanted to see the baby, and she came with the baby dress. And then at one point, my wife asked if she can discuss shidduchim with the Rebbetzin, and she was told yes, and she did. At one point, the Rebbetzin told my wife, maybe your chassan, your husband, however she said it, is still either in South Africa or Morocco. And I was in Morocco at the time. Wow. Came back, and we dated, and then Yud Shvat Tafshin.
Wait. That's an important line. So the Rebbetzin said to your shviger,
my wife.
To your wife? To your wife?
To my wife.
The Rebbetzin spoke with your wife. She was close to the Rebbetzin. She was in the Rebbetzin house. Where was that?
My shviger never went to the Rebbetzin house. My wife used to bring her sister to the Rebbe's house. Okay. So the Rebbetzin used to see her sister, but my wife would talk to the Rebbetzin.
So which sister are you talking about?
She has one sister who's married to Kiva Nussbaum.
So these two
She was the
sisters would
baby.
go together.
That's right. That's right.
So the Rebbetzin told your wife, your chassan might be either in Morocco or in South Africa.
South
where
Africa.
shluch means, but to explain, because the Bochem used to go on shlichas. So you were a shliach then, a Bocher, a shliach in where were you in Morocco?
In Morocco.
Morocco.
Yeah.
So the Rebbetzin said your chassan is either here or there. No.
He might. No, he didn't say for sure. So he might be South Africa or Morocco. And I was a shliach then in Morocco.
Okay, continue.
Okay.
That's
the
amazing.
Next, Yud Shvat Tavshim Ches. We're about to ride into the Rebbe. Yud Shvat was Friday. Friday night, Sarah got permission to go see the Rebbetzin. They were in the library then. And she told the Rebbetzin, as I came in the past, especially Shidduchim, I came to tell you that we're going to ride into the Rebbe to become Chasam Kala. So she wished the Rebbetzin Mazel Tov. She wished my wife Mazel Tov. My wife said, it's not a Mazel Tov yet. We didn't ride to the Rebbe yet. Really, when the Rebbetzin wished her Mazel Tov, that was the Mazel Tov. That's what we got engaged. Yud Shvat Tavshim Ches.
Wow.
And then she asked her, what is his name? And she said, Levi Yitzchak Shem Tov. She said, is this the Einikel Ben Tzina Shem Tov? I'm sure many of you heard of Ben Tzina Shem Tov. My Zayda was a very big chassid of the Frierdiker Rebbe. He's one of the 9 chassidim who did that oath, the bond, the promise with the Frierdiker Rebbe in Russia to do whatever they need for Yiddishkeit until the last bit of blood. And the Zayda was a big chassid of the Rebbe. So she asked, is this the Einikel of Ben Tzina Shem Tov? And she said, yes. And she said, I'm very happy to hear that because now I know you're going to speak to your children in Yiddish. And that's very important.
Wow. So when did the Rebbetzin said Mazel Tov? Yud Shvat Mem Ches?
Yud Shvat Mem Ches. Yeah.
And you were not a chassan yet?
We didn't write in until Sunday, Yud Beis Shvat.
Oh, so the Rebbetzin already said Mazel Tov before you wrote into the Rebbe.
Right.
Wow.
Right. So it's maybe I should mention this now that I confirmed my shver, and you were there, Yaski. It was a few years ago. My shver spoke CHof Beis Shevat. You remember that?
Right.
Yeah. At that CHof Beis Shevat gathering Farbrengen, he said that he heard this from Chesed. Chesed said that he once asked the Rebbe, what's the difference between the bracha of the Rebbe and the Rebbetzin? And the Rebbe said that a bracha from the Rebbetzin, you don't need a keli. A bracha that I give, you need a kela.
Oh, that comes from Chesed. Okay. So your shver didn't ask the Rebbe that question. Okay, I get it.
Right. I thought my shver asked the Rebbe. But then later I looked into it and I asked around.
That's important. That's important. But your shver told you that story, that he was from Chesed.
He said it live. If you look at the Farbrengen that time when my shver was there.
Oh, he said that. Okay.
It's in the video.
Okay.
He told it to us also, but he told,
But so, he heard from Chesed before Gimel Tammuz or after Gimel Tammuz, or you don't know?
Okay, so I think that story is connected. I think so. They brought the Rebbe, and the Rebbetzin might have been, I'm thinking maybe Lamed Tes, when it's 50 years, right? Lamed Tes?
Right.
Was 50 years. They brought a big bouquet of flowers, and they brought an envelope with brachas.
Right.
And Chesed gave the flowers to the Rebbetzin, they gave the brachas to the letters for the brachas to the Rebbe. And the Rebbe said, give it to her. Chesed said, no, but these are for brachas. The Rebbe said, she could also bench. And Chesed was like smiling. And you correct me if I'm wrong, but I think the Rebbe got very, very upset. Was meinst du, was retzes, you can give a brachas, is the tochter. And then the Rebbe was very, very upset. How you talking? The guy's laughing. Chassid's laughing. That the Rebbe said give brachas. So could be was the gate of that. But he asked the Rebbe. Could be. Pel Mamish, Yud Beis Shevat. We wrote to the Rebbe, and it's dollars. I think it was dollars and dollars. Bishvat was the Rebbe, and the Rebbe's answer was Nochoin v'Yehi v'Shotei v'Matzlachas Askal L'Sien. So we got engaged. I went to the Feldman's house, and the phone rang. And they told my wife, it's the Rebbetzin. So when she called the house, she said it was Mrs. Schneerson from President Street. She asked to speak to Sarah. She gave Sarah a lot of brachas. We were supposed to go see the Rebbetzin. But my father said, give her a few more days, she'll feel better, and then you'll go. Pel Mamish, we did not go, because a few days later it was CHof Beis Shevat, 10 days later. On the way to the hospital, a shver was in the back seat with the Rebbetzin. Rabbi Yehuda Krinsky, Shalom Gansberg was also in the car. And the Rebbetzin, big part of the discussion on the way to the hospital was to my father-in-law, Allah Shalom, how is the young couple? How is the kala? What's the gown, the dress, the simcha, the happy? All about the new chas and kala. I should also mention that at we got engaged, I was, and my younger brother, Benzi Shah, in Chicago. My wife was sitting with her sister Rifki on her lap, and they took pictures and they made pictures, they copies, and developed it, and they sent it to the Rebbetzin. Was very happy to see that. I'll just mention that after the Shiva, they were cleaning up the Rebbe's room, the Rebbetzins room, and the pictures are right there on the nightstand in the Rebbetzins room. And they took the pictures, and the Rebbe said, leave those pictures there.
Wow. The Rebbe said to leave the pictures there. Wow.
Yeah. So now it's CHof Beis Shevat, and we'll remember, all there remember the pain that the Rebbe went through. This is the greatest confidant, the closest person to the Rebbe, the biggest chassid of the Rebbe. Was nifter. The pain that the Rebbe had on his face was terrible to see the Rebbe that lost his, that the Rebbe was nifter. And right after the Shiva, the Rebbe asked my shver, what are the plans for l'chaim? And the plans were to make it my parents' house, like a week after. But there was questions, are we going to make it a week after? It's still part of the shleishim. And the Rebbe said to my shver, Al Kapanim, they shouldn't push it off. And he said, you're going to make it in the Shantav house. The Rebbe said they should make it in a hall, because that's what would make her happy. And a few days later, the Rebbe's, one of the Rebbe's Chassidim called and said, the Rebbe said it should be real dishes. A few days later, the Rebbe said it should be with live music, which was unheard of then. The Rebbe wanted then l'chaim should be in a house, small, quiet, nice. No, l'chaim of Farbrengen. So here we did in the hall, real dishes and live music. People thought we were crazy.
When was it? After the shleishim? When was that?
No, it was, I believe, dial the Hey Adar. So the Rebbe got up from the Shiva CHof Beis Shevat.
CHof Beis Shevat,
So
yeah.
this is a week later, within the next week later.
Wow.
And people thought a chutzpah, what is it doing? The Rebbe doesn't want it, it's shleishim. So we literally had to make sure people knew this was not our idea. This was clearly coming straight from the Rebbe. And the Rebbe would say, this is what would make her happy.
Wow.
Mamash got married CHof Beis Shevat, also CHof Beis. And after they got married, a year goes by, no children. Another year goes by, no children. Another year goes by. My wife didn't tell me the story about the Yiddish, speaking children Yiddish, till a few years later. So once we discussed the story, we knew, even if it's 4 years or 5 years or 6 years, we know that Rebbetzin said you're going to speak these children in Yiddish. We're going to have children, and so we can speak them in Yiddish. We knew, we held on to it. Besides, did Rebbe give us brachas and many other things. It took 13 years, and Tafshin Samach Aleph, from Memches, 13 years. Baruch Hashem, our twins are born, our children, Chaim Mushka and Mendel, and yes, we speak to them in Yiddish, spoke to them in Yiddish. And Baruch Hashem, a year later, 3 years later, we had another boy, his name is Yosef, and Baruch Hashem, we speak to them in Yiddish also. So the bracha of the Rebbetzin, you'll speak to children in Yiddish, was what really kept us going, besides the Rebbe's brachas and everything else, kept us going for all the years. I also want to say that, I don't know if this was brought up, I know I spoke to you, Yoski, about this, that people talk about the fact that the Rebbe is known, especially in Bereshis, it's written so beautifully, that the Rebbe refused to become the Rebbe. As a matter of fact, my Zayde, Allah Shalom ben Tzin Shamtov, he was one of Chassidim, many Chassidim, but he wrote a lot of Savas, Kashrus letters that they wrote to the Rebbe should become a Rebbe. And then there would be a list of signatures of people who committed and were committing to be the Chassidim of the Rebbe. They would give it to the Rebbe, and the Rebbe would look at it, and then the Rebbe would go, literally throw it away. And the Rebbe said clearly, he can't be a Rebbe, he's not a Rebbe, he can be a Tefillah Rebbe, it's not for him. And Pel Mamish is a story of Shimon Kazanovsky, who had a dream a little before Yud Shvat. And in the dream, he sees the Tefillah Rebbe speaking to the Rebbe and telling the Rebbe, what are you talking about? Speak to the Yidden. Your job is to speak to the Yidden. Lead the Yidden. Be so, and they'll journey on. Cabinet Mashiach Tzekenu. And he came to 70. He wrote this, and the Rebbe gave me Hashakrach. And this was a good sign, and because the Rebbe always like push everything away, and here the Rebbe gave me Hashakrach. The Pel Mamish, I think, the Astachma for sure, we could say that what actually made the Rebbe decide to become Rebbe, the Rebbetzin Mushka, and we also Weinberg, was confirmed that he said this. You heard a lot of Chassidim say this, but it was confirmed that he said that he heard that the Rebbetzin Mushka came to the Rebbe and told the Rebbe, what's going to be with the Mesidus Nefesh, my father, for 30 years if the Rebbe doesn't continue? And very possible that this is what prompted the Rebbe, that his own wife, the daughter of Friedrich Rebbe, is telling him to become the Rebbe. Maybe that's what did it. No, we can't know Milo. But think about this. She was the daughter of the Rebbe, an of the Rebbe. What of the Rebbe? She knew exactly what it means that if your husband becomes a Rebbe, there's no time for anything. But for her, it was all about Chassidim and Yiddishkeit and Yidden, and she knew that the Rebbe should become the Rebbe. We also know that, I know it was mentioned before, I think, that the Rebbetzin was the biggest chassid of the Rebbe. The Rebbe Farbrengen, I remember as a kid, sometimes 2, 3 in the morning, Yechidissim went till 5, 6 in the morning. And normally when a husband works late, tells the wife says, I'm going to go to sleep, and when you come home, make sure you don't turn the lights on, they make a lot of noise, I want to be sleeping. When the Rebbe came home, whenever time it was, 1 in the morning, 2 in the morning, 3 in the morning, 4 in the morning, the Rebbetzin was sitting there with tea and whatever else it was, with a smile for the Rebbe. Can we even imagine what that meant for the Rebbe? That he comes home, and now it's his first few moments in his home, in his own house, with his wife is there waiting for him all the hours, so the Rebbe can have the comfort that his Rebbetzin is there. Can we even imagine what that meant? Can we even imagine the Mesidus Nefesh that she had? That everything she was, everything she did was for the Rebbe, the Rebbe, the Rebbe, the Rebbe.
Amazing. Well, Yasher Koyach, Rabbi Shem Tov.
I'm not done. Yes,
Sure,
one
go
second.
ahead. Go ahead. Sure.
No, I just want to say one more thing.
We have a few more speakers. Go ahead.
Okay, no problem.
No, go ahead.
I want to say, I'll just say one more thing. There's a family once had an emergency situation, 2 o'clock in the morning, 3 o'clock in the morning. They called mosquitoes. Punktu was one of the mosquito wins in 70. And the Rebbe that night happened to go home early, 9, 10 o'clock at night. And they call the mosquitoes. They have to do surgery. They're not sure what to do. They're not going to do anything before the Rebbe tells them. So the Masker said the Rebbe went home. He's home. You have to wait till the morning. So they said, you don't understand. They're about to do surgery now. We need to know now, yes or no. Masker had no choice. He calls the Rebbe's house. The Rebbetzin picks up, says, Veret, who's speaking? So he apologized. He said, he's a Masker, and there's a question, a lady, a child. And the Rebbe gave the bracha, and everything worked out for Sheitzach. After he apologized again, the Rebbetzin said, why are you apologizing? By you calling us now, when a Yid needs something, you're enabling us to fulfill the tachlis of why we came here in the world, which is to help every Yid. So the Rebbe in the Sikha, when the Sikha is after CHof Beis Shevat, one of the Sikhas the Rebbe said about the Shluchim, that the shluchim were shluchim from the tzedkonis, the Rebbetzins, and so we're shluchim from the Rebbe. We're also shluchim for the Rebbetzin. We know the kids used to come to the Rebbe and say, "Where are the children?" And the Rebbetzin said, "The shluchim." So 70, or another version, I believe, is that the children are shluchim. So the Chayil bracha, the Rebbetzin git brachas, and the Rebbe git brachas. And tonight, CHof Beis Shevat, is a heilige tag, the day that our mother, our Rebbetzin, biggest chassid of the Rebbe, is giving us brachas. Today is a tremendous b'chayis of brachas, and l'chayim bracha, they're connected to us, so we should connect mazara b'chayim, mafri b'chayim, when we are continuing the ways of Rebbe Chaim Mushka and the Rebbe, then they are living here with us, and we're giving nachas from us, l'chayim bracha, l'shein zen the Rebbe and the Lamata Glashu Yivlein l'chayim.
Amen, amen, l'chaim, l'chaim, Yasher Koyach. Inspiring words, Rebbe Shem Tov. Thank you. Before we go to our next speaker, we all know the Gedusha and the holiness of the Rebbetzin, that even as Rabbi Gezarchi mentioned before, and as Rabbi Shem Tov mentioned before, of the meifsim that we saw from the Rebbetzin. Bechlal, we heard from the Rebbetzin, Rebbe Sprach. Just one example that lately I heard, there is a Yid in Kfar Chabad. I heard the story from him. His name is Moshe Horowitz. His father his father told him the story. He was a bocher in 770 in either Chof Tes or Chof Ches. One of the last years when the Rebbe used to have the Seder upstairs in the Friedrich Rebbe's house. And as we all know, the Friedrich Rebbe's house is a very small place, and only a very few people were allowed. And his father was a bocher from Eretz Yisrael, and he was from the Kvutze, and the bochem all wanted to be at the Seder. So they all jumped in. When the permission was given to get in, they jumped in from all the windows, from all the doors, and they jumped on some of the Friedrich Rebbe's couches and chairs, and they broke, as they all ran in to the Seder. And the Rebbetzin was standing there, and the Rebbetzin said, "Bered wegen bittel, was kommt zu sich, is gone it." Everyone talks, we learn Chassidus wegen bittel, to nullify yourself and not to care about yourself, but to care about the Eibishter. And here is the Friedrich Rebbe's furniture, the Rebbe's house, and you destroy the house just because you want to be able to see, that you want to be there to say that. And it's very similar to the way the Rebbe wrote to my wife's uncle, Reb Mendel Shem Tov, in Tovshin Yud Aleph, and he was a bocher, and he had a medical problem, and he was very worried, and he wrote to the Rebbe. And there's a very famous letter the Rebbe wrote back to him, and then the Rebbe was receiving Savat Kodesh, and the Rebbe wrote very similar words. The Rebbe said, "Me lernt, aber es kommt zum Peil, wo ist der Bitochen?" We learn Chassidus, we learn about Bitochen, about trust in the Eibishter, and then when it comes to Peil, he has a medical issue, he lost himself, he has no Bitochen, no trust. Wo ist the Bitochen? We see the Rebbetzin had a Rebbeische Sprach, she spoke like the Rabbeim, and the meifsim that we saw from her, just to mention two meifsim which became famous, two amazing meifsim. One meifis was that I heard myself from Yirmiyah Zalmanov, who is the Einikel of Reb Shmuel Zalmanov. His father, Reb Eliezer Zalmanov, told the story. He was a bocher in 770, and he was very, very mikurev zum Rebbe, very, very mikurev, to the point that he used to ask the shaylas by the Seder when he was a kid by the Friedrich Rebbe, and then by his bar mitzvah, the Rebbe went in especially Yichidus and in Tovshin Yud, and in Tovshin Yud Aleph, Tovshin Yud, and the Rebbe told to go and say a maimer, but the oil, his bar mitzvah maimer, was a very, very special kiruvim he had from the Rebbe. His father was mamish a very, very close friend of the Rebbe. Anyway, so his uncle came to Tishrei, his uncle from Kfar Chabad came to Tishrei to 770, and it was Simchas Torah night after the Rebbe taught the Nigun and everything, and then it was already morning, and many Chassidim used to not go to sleep after the Ola Kofet because they were afraid they will not be there for the Kofet by day. So they went to the mikveh. A bunch of Chassidim went to the mikveh. It was 5, 6 in the morning, and they decided they'll go back to shul and they'll just sleep a little bit on the table, and then they'll be there for Shachris. So he crossed the street to go to the Kastira mikveh, which was on the corner of Eastern Parkway in Kingston, Eastern Parkway in Brooklyn, and he basically, because he wasn't used to the way in Eastern Parkway the cars go from one side and the other side, he didn't look, and anyway a car knocked him down, and he flew all the way up, and he fell on the floor, and it was blood spilling from everywhere, and the hospital, the ambulance came, it took him to the hospital, and everyone was afraid that this is like the end. And all the Bochem and the Al-Nash said to him, to Eliezer Laine, they said to Eliezer Laine, they said to him, you are a Mekurev, and you have to go to the Rebbe's house and ask for a brocha for him. And he didn't want to go. The Rebbe just left 770, and the Rebbe only has 2 hours before he has to come back. He didn't want to go, but they said, the Pikuach Nefesh, you must go. Everyone was putting pressure, and you're Mekurev, and you're the only one who could go. So anyway, so he decided he'll go, and he went to the Rebbe's house. He knocked on the door, and the Rebbetzin didn't answer. Nobody answered. So he thought to himself, okay, I went, and nobody answered. But then he said, no, it's Pikuach Nefesh. So he decided he'll ring the bell. He rang the bell, and the Rebbetzin came out, and he told the Rebbetzin the story. He apologized. The Rebbetzin said, the Rebbe just went into his room. We cannot bother the Rebbe now. But then the Rebbetzin said, yeah, Mistamet's nothing. Mistamet was knocked. The car probably knocked by the hip, so there is all the blood, but it's nothing probably. That's what the Rebbetzin said. You're making a big deal about it. It's nothing. It's nothing. So he went back to 770, and he said that the Rebbetzin said it's probably nothing. I mean, they all thought it's Pikuach Nefesh. He was flying all the way and fell, and the blood is all over it. And the Poel Mamish, when the Rebbe started to Farbrengen, was the Rebbe started Farbrengen Simchas Torah right before Shkia, and an hour after Shkia was already Motzei Shabbos. Mr. Mordechai, he sees how they're bringing him on a wheelchair, and everything is basically fine. And exactly what the way the Rebbetzin said, there was just by the feet, and that was the blood all about, but there was nothing really happened to him. So just the Rebbetzin made it look like, oh, it's probably nothing. So we could see the mamish that she had a level of Rosh and Meifsim Punk like the Rebbe, and as Zalman Goraif, the famous line that Ram Zalman Goraif told me when I interviewed him for Mei Bereshis, he said to me that the Rebbetzin had the Meichen of the Frierdiker Rebbe, and if she would be a man, she would be the Rebbe. And it's interesting, when the Rebbe used the Sikha, the word Shneir's son, the Rebbe said that he's a Zun. Von Schneier, the Rebbe Mamish said the same words about her, that she was a son, she was Yerush Akel, she had until she yashed the inner from the Neshama Chadosha from the Alter Rebbe. So we could see that Nikuda, that she, the level that she was. So B'meile, I just want to say that this is the stories that we see from by the Rebbetzin, about unbelievable koyach who the Rebbetzin was. So now the next speaker, I would like to invite our next speaker, Rebbe Herschel Kesselman, a shliach from the Rebbe in England, who had some personal meifsim that he saw from the Rebbetzin. I would like to ask Rebbe Herschel Kesselman if he's with us to share a few words and to share with us about the meifsim from the Rebbetzin. Rabbi Kesselman, are you there? Rebbe Herschel Kesselman with us? Rav Kesselman? Is he here or not? I know he's by the oil. He told me today that he's arrived and he's here. He's here? Oh, Rabbi Kesselman. Oh, it's a pleasure. We can't hear you. You have to open your mic. Rabbi Litvin, can you open his mic? Rabbi Litvin. Is Rabbi Litvin online? Herschel, can you open your mic? What's it saying now? Rabbi Litvin? Oh, can we hear you? Okay, now it's good. Now we can hear you. Rabbi Kesselman, Zog L'chaim.
Yes.
Share with us a few stories. L'chaim, Rabbi
L'chaim
Kesselman.
Yossi, L'chaim. Eliezer Laine. Them is, after so many speakers, we push the mission Shikira Nechi. The Chazifel Redness.
It's okay. We can reden a kol halayla.
Yeah, weet je.
Mitzvah l'saper kol halayla. The ganze Nacht can we reden.
Especially after the Mashpia Rabbi Zarchi. But when we're making this a bisschen bekitza, the story is going that the Rebbetzin, Was in tough after my Chassidin. We were living in Albany Avenue, and Albany Avenue is a bakery, and the Rebbetzin was 3 times a week. I think Hesed was the driver. Always, I think came from Long Island, and make a left of Albany Avenue. Stop the car sometimes near to my house, sometimes near to the bakery. And that's the way you have the chance to see the Rebbetzin for many times. In special, my wife knew the Rebbetzin and the Rebbetzin
Your
knew
wife, because your wife is Mrs. Suda, she's the daughter of Rab
yeah,
Nachman
yeah.
Suda, therefore she knew the Rebbe.
In the Rebbetzin knew we live in this place, yeah. So one time, how my wife was very good in heart. I think it was the summer. She saw a lady in from Crown Heights. She asked if she wanted lessons for art. She said no problem. So I like to have art. So if you come to my house, I'm going to give you lessons. She came to the house, and the table was near to the window. And this lady, whatever, and we're not going to mention the name, this lady didn't have children for over 11 years.
She was from Anash? She was a lady from Anash?
Yeah. She didn't have children for 11 years. And my wife was sitting with her, giving lessons in art. In the middle, my wife is watching the window. The Rebbetzin sits in the car, and the Eigen is looking up to the house. So my wife ran away. And she said to the lady, you know who is this? She never saw the Rebbetzin, this lady. She was born in Crown Heights. Said, if you want, this is the Rebbetzin. So she gave the message to go away. So this lady went to the window, and she's looking down to the Rebbetzin, and the Rebbetzin is looking to her. Like for a few seconds, I don't know, so half a minute. And my wife was away. And that's it, that's the story. Few months went, was CHof Beis Shevat. This was just before CHof Beis Shevat. And then I think it was Shmuli Hecht. I was here. The father from the husband from this lady came over to me. He's got a baby, very baby girl. Came over to me, and he gave me a mazel tov. Said to me, "Du weißt was? You are partner. You are shooter in this baby." What are you talking about? I didn't understand what he's saying. Then he said this story. You know, your wife was giving lessons to my wife. I said, "Okay, I didn't know anything." And this day, when my wife saw the Rebbetzin the first time in life, she was looking to the Rebbetzin and she was asking a broche in machshove for a child. And this night was a leil tefillah. And 9 months from this night was the baby was born. And the name from the child is Chaimushke. So this story was a secret in Crown Heights. So the guy said, don't mention my name. And people didn't know the story happened with us. Few years ago was in the Rivke. One from the teachers wanted to give a speech to speak by the Rebbetzin. She said a story in a house, and the Rebbetzin was watching and gave a bracha, didn't know what. And that's where the child was born. A child is a maidel stolze havek, a girl, this is me. So then people realized it's a true story. And this girl called Chaimushke is now the shluchim in Australia. So the Maise, we don't know this story. The Maise, the father told me this story, the second half. And another thing happened, I mentioned to Yoski today, happened in my house. A guy came to visit us, and we saw the Rebbetzin like 3 times a week, like around 4 o'clock. The Rebbetzin came, Hesed went to the bakery, and the Rebbetzin was sitting in the car and watching. So the guy was in the house. You see, the Rebbetzin, he took a camera, he went to the corner, and he's going to take a picture.
Of the Rebbetzin.
Yeah. In this second, he's taking a picture, the Eigen from the Rebbetzin came out, flee as they hop. And this film was the last pictures from the film. and over. Alles gar nicht mit gar nicht.
All the film of the camera burned.
Alles ist verbrennt geworden. This story happened right after my Chassidishe, yeah. And that's the amazing with the Rebbetzin with the pictures.
Which year was that story? Which year?
Tov Shem Zayin. And to sit and to speak by the Rebbetzin is exactly opposite what the Rebbetzin wants. But because CHof Beis Shevat is yahrzeit-hilula, in the bakery in Albany was a lady called Rachel. And she told me the story. She knew the Rebbetzin very well. She said, Tov Shin Yud Zayin, one time the Rebbetzin came to the bakery, and the Rebbetzin Friday was waiting in the line to buy challah. And people didn't know he's the Rebbetzin. So she realized the Rebbetzin is waiting in the line. She's showing the people, get away. And she put the Rebbetzin in the front. And she gave the Rebbetzin challah. And she said, guess what happened? That was the last time the Rebbetzin came to the bakery.
Wow.
So the point is, to redwing the Rebbetzin, in the Rebbetzin is exactly opposite. That's not what the Rebbetzin want. But we need to do the yahrzeit-hilula. I don't know the mice, I remember the first CHof Beis Shevat. My Shver told me, and Rabbi Krinsky called them. Rabbi Krinsky called them, and the Rebbe gebeten übergeben die Shluchim die Kinder. Bemeile, der Rebbe sagt, als die Rebbetzin seien die Kinder. Und wir sind die Rebbetzins Kinder. Das ist die Atkan, die meiste, was ich gehört von meinem Schwer, was mein Schwer das gehört von Judlein. Später sagt mein Judel, sagt, das ist not die Story, aber ich has gehört Bescheid. L'chaim, wir haben noch Hasar gehst im Maschpim, wo wir Schmotkin sagt, was sagt, L'chaim, der Rebbe soll leben von so sein, bechoi Yevorach Yisrael, mit alle Brachas, ist gut zu Yagin Aleinu.
Amen. Der Shekach Rabbi Kesselman.
Wir soll geben nachher zu der Rebbe wie der Rebbetzin.
Amen. Chaim. Well, we have our next speaker. So our next speaker is, we are going to invite our next speaker, Rabbi Levi Azimov. We all know that his mother, Mrs. Azimov, was very close to the Rebbetzin, Bet Shem Tov's daughter, and and as we know that in Sefer HaShluchim, we're going to hear from him later, how it says in Sefer HaShluchim under a picture, it says that her worried, her daige for the Shluchim had no limits. And as we all know that Mrs. Leah Khan once spoke to the Rebbetzin about, the Rebbetzin talked about the Shluchim, as they go to far places, and how the Shluchas have no kosher meat and of kosher milk, and they have to bake themselves the bread, and they make it in such a beautiful way, such a beautiful way, and such a mechubedike way. And there was something one time that she got a gift from the shluchas, and the Rebbetzin said to Leah Khan, she said, the shluchas are busy so much and they're working all the time. How do they have time to spend on me? And the Rebbetzin said, then Leah said to the Rebbetzin, you're so important to the shluchas. And she said, no, but how do they have time for me? They're working so hard. And once she said something, Leah Khan said something, and the Rebbetzin said to her, you're not respecting them. You don't understand what they're doing. So you could see how the Rebbetzin had such an amazing nachas, again, like the mother, like we didn't hear from the Rebbe about the hardship of the shluchim, about the fact that the shluchas don't have kosher meat and they have to bake the food, they have to make kosher bread themselves. But the Rebbetzin, like a mother, she's the one who spoke about us. She's the one who worried for the shluchas, and she's the one she spoke about the shluchas go to places where there is another language. They don't understand the language. They have to go to the language. They have to learn the language. She is the one who brought out the hardship of the shluchim, and she said how they do it in such a beautiful way, such a mechubedik way. With all the hardship, how the shluchim represent the Rebbe with such a covet. And she knew everything what's happening with the shluchim, and she respected them. You could only imagine what the Rebbetzin would say today when you have thousands and thousands of shluchim in the most further places. Imagine a American girl who goes to a place like Zambia, where there is no electricity and there is no water, mamish a third world country. When in the middle of you washing your baby, the hot water stops in the middle of washing the baby, and you have to run to the generator and put fuel in the generator, and your husband is not home, and you have to find a neighbor who will help you put in it. Can you imagine what the Rebbetzin would say about a little girl from America who goes all the way to a place like Zambia, which is a third world country, and what the Rebbetzin would make, the nachas ruach the Rebbetzin has from that kind of shlichus. So we see how the Rebbetzin had this amazing connection to the shluchim, and therefore it's no wonder that that's for sure that the Rebbe said to Rabbi Krinsky to be media the shluchim. That's no question about it. The question was if the word the kinder, if the Rebbe said it, or that's what people understood why the Rebbe said to media the shluchim. But that's for sure that the Rebbe told Rabbi Krinsky was a media the shluchim, and that's one of the reasons why the Rebbe said to make the levaya at 12 o'clock, that people should be able to come. So from all over, even though the Rebbe said not to make it too late, but to make it at least 12, people should be able to come. So we see clearly that the Rebbetzin had such a shaykhs to the shluchim that the Rebbe said to be mideh the shluchim, even though all the Chassidim knew, and it wasn't the news and the radio and everything, but still, remember as a bocher, the first night of CHof Beis Shevat, I was one of the bochim who knew I was the first bocher who knew about the istalkos, because my sister's Schwieger, Mrs. Levato, was in the Chassidishe. She called my sister to let her know the Rebbetzin passed away. My sister called me. I had a phone in my room, and I ran to Chaim Baruch, and Chaim Baruch did not know. I went to the Chaim Baruch's office in 770, and Chaim Baruch did not know. So I said I didn't want to tell anyone because I didn't believe it. I couldn't believe this happened. So I asked Chaim Baruch. I said he doesn't know. Chaim Baruch made phone calls, and nobody answered him. So he felt something is wrong, but then he made one phone call, and then he said, I'm sorry, and he hung up. And he never told me what it was. And I was so distracted what's going on, I didn't think about it. 30 years later, Chaim Baruch told me that one of the people he called was the Rebbe's house. And the Rebbe picked up the phone. There was a siman, what kind of calls he could make, that the Rebbe should pick up the phone. The Rebbe picked up the phone, and when he heard the Rebbe's voice, he thought the Rebbe will pick up. He thought Bergans will pick up. So he heard the Rebbe's voice, he said, I'm sorry, and he hung up. And then when he knew that's probably happened, and he ran out of 770. So I remember that night, they made a goyrel to who should go into the Rebbetzin house to say Tilim. And my name came out first, but the girl was on by the Rebbe's table, with the Rebbe's place upstairs in Zal. But I didn't want to go inside, and instead I went with a few bochim to put signs all over the shuls in the entire Flatbush in Bell Park, that people should know about the istalkos, because you could see the Rebbe wanted to be as many people for the cover of the Rebbetzin. So we see that, so even though there wasn't the news and everything before Midois, but still the Rebbe said the Loshen with the Midiyas and the Shluchim, because the Rebbe had, the Rebbe's in a special relationship with the work of Shluchim. She was very into the work of Shluchim. She knew everything what's happening with the Shluchim. There are some Shluchim who had the schus to send her pictures straight to the Rebbetzins house, and the Rebbetzin would send dollars to them and so on. But one of the shluchas who had the most unusual relationship with the Rebbetzin regarding the work of shlichas is Rebbetzin is Mrs. Azimov, Basi Azimov. So without any further delay, I would like to invite, we should hear Rabbi Levi Azimov never spoke in public, and it's the first time he's speaking, sharing the information that he heard from his mother and his father about the relationship, and he himself was zeicher to be in the Rebbetzins house, with the Rebbetzin, right by Beis Kislev, Tovshim Ches, which was the last time the Rebbetzin, which was basically the goodbye meeting that the Rebbetzin had with Basi Azimov, and that's the only time that the Rebbetzin shook hands with Basi Azimov. The only time that the Rebbetzin gave her a hand was that meeting, Beis Kislev, which is very similar how when and this was the goodbye, very similar what happened with Moshe Hecht, that the Rebbe gave when it came to the last dollars before his passing. The Rebbe stroked out his hand and shook hands with him by dollars, and he was in shock. He couldn't believe it, and this was actually the last time that he saw the Rebbe. So anyway, without any further delay, I would like to ask Rabbi Litvin to bring up the video of Rabbi Levi Azimov.
In der Sefer HaShluchim, was der Rebbe hat übergeguckt, ist mir gebracht von einem Sefer, es ist da ein Bild von der Rebbetzin, und unter dem Bild ist da ein paar Schubes. Dort steht, wegen der Deige, was der Rebbetzin hat gehabt, für die Schluchim, die Schluches, ist, wegen dem wird man da, der Mann in ein paar Unionen wegen der Betas HaShlichis, was ich verbunden mit Frankreich, wie ich mit meinen Eltern. In Tofshim im Tess, ich bin ein Sekretär Schwedisch Kislev, und der Rebbe hat gerät, wenn dem in der Sicher, und später ist rausgegangen, eine mutige Sicher. Die Sicher redet der Rebbe herum wegen der Minion von die Ovis und die Emois. Der Rebbe sagt, als beklar sein die Ovis gewähren Herrscher von den Unionen von Welt und verschiedene Beurteilungen, bechdez was sein bei von Amasim, ist das durchgegangen in die Emois. Der Rebbe ist Mamschik in die Sicher und sagt, dass der sei sich bei Chassidishe Neshama Chabad, bei die Rebbeim, als sie Beurteilungen in der Welt ist durchgegangen an Koponim, weil die gehören verbunden mit den Loschen, die dort in die Sicher, durch die Rebbetzin. In der Ore wird auch gebracht der Minion, als sie steht als die Oves bekommen von dem Moes, oder es wird sein, was ich glaube, und in der Sof von der Ore wird gebracht, als der se dechet bei Nesiya Chassidus. Am Land der Sicher sagt man, als der Rebbe ist Masbir, als der Ingen von, was die Rabbeim tun auf der Welt, ist in einer gewissen Weg besser zugetan durch die Rebbetzins, durch den Rebbetzin. Es sicher hat der Rebbe geredet, durch Chassidishe Kislev Toshim im Tess, in der Jahr von die Stalkus von der Rebbetzin. Zu dem Ingen, nicht alle das gesehen, und der Rebbe sagt nicht Masbir, in welcher Weg, vielleicht ist durchgehen, was war Weg, was war Eifen, was sich ihnen aufgetan durch die Rebbetzins. Der Ingen von der Kescher von der Rebbetzin mit dem Minion Schlichis in Frankreich hat betem schon angegeben mit meiner Mama präsentlich, Vater, was hat Chassidin gehabt, meine Mama gelebt in New York, und mein Seiden, Rebbetzin Schemte, fragt ihr, reinführen zu der Rebbetzin in Stub. Bei mir der Kescher schon gewähnt, Vater, was sind rausgefahren auf Schlichis. Zum Chassidin gehabt, CHof Beis, meine Eltern sind rausgefahren auf Schlichis, Beis CHof Beis. Sie fahren zum Rebbe jemand jede 2 Jahre. Die Rebbe sind geblieben bekescher mit meiner Mama, Bechlal, durch ein Telefon, und ich hätte jedes Mal, sie fängt fahren zum Rebbe, für die Rebbe sind ihr Betten zu reinkommen, zu ihr auf einen Besuch. Bechlal fängt sie nicht einladen, die Mischproche, kopot mich später, und der Yachas, was die Rebbe sind hat gehabt, mit den Schlichis in Frankreich, ich gewähne in Gora speziellen Neffen. Eine von den Sachen weiß man doch, was die Rebbetzin hat gesagt, als wir haben geackert, gesät, und ihr darf schneiden. Der Wort hat sie gesagt zu meiner Mama, sie hat es echt gesagt zu meinen Seiden, Rebbetzin, und sie haben das reingestellt in die Sicher, weil Yeshev Toshim Beis, und als hat es der Rebbe gelassen, und das ist, mir seht klar, wie der Rebbetzin hat gehabt, ein spezieller Kescher mit den Schlichis in Frankreich. Bechlal hat man gesehen, dass der Rebbetzin ist die ganze Zeit, fragt sich noch, und ich bin reingemischt, nicht nur in Frankreich, sondern in Sachplätze rechet. Aber wir haben kleine gewähnt in Paris, wenn es ist gewähnt der Chanukkas Abayis von Beis Muschke, hat der Zilber Farbrengen, als wenn wird herumfahren von verschiedenen Sibes in der Welt und wird reingehen zum Rebbe und übergeben nach die Woche,
hat der Rebbe allmal gebeten, ist nicht zu schwer, zu übergeben Nechet HaDivuach zu der Rebbetzin. Noch nicht in jeder Platz hat der Rebbetzin bewiesen, hat dem Yachas. Hat mir gebeten, wir können erzählen ein paar Inyanim. Eine von den Sachen, was meine Mama für Talmud erzählen, als meine Eltern sind angekommen auf Schliches, CHof Beis. Und bechlall sind sie gewähnt, wir können sie sagen, die Schluchim in Paris. Und erst später hat der Rebbe geschickt noch ein paar Volks sein gekommen da auf Schliches. Die anderen sind angekommen da Lamed He, Lamed Vov, Lamed Zayin. Und angekommen jemand fünf Koppel sind gekommen da auf Schliches. Meine Mama ist gefahren zu der Rebbetzin. Und der Rebbetzin hat mit ihr geredet, wie jeder einer ist sich mistader bei Makom HaShliches. Und sie ist durchgekommen, als von der Rebbetzin, als es ist eine Schwierigkeit für die Jungen zu kommen, zu fahren, gehen in eine fremde Medine. Jemals die sind angekommen da auf Schliches, die Männer haben alle geredet Französisch. Sie haben auch von dort, von anderen Medinen, sie haben geredet die Sprache. Und bei der Schluch ist sie gewähnt 2, 3, was haben nicht geredet die Sprache. Hat Rebbetzin sich ruhig gesagt zu meiner Mama, aber das meint, für eine junge Schluche zu kommen, zu fahren, die Schwierigkeit. Meine Mama hat gesehen, als sie bringt da ruhig ein bisschen der Wehtag, der Zar, die Schwierigkeit. Hat meine Mama gewollt, machen viel besser, wir können sie sagen. Hat sie gesagt, was ist? Also haben wir bekommen den Chinuch, und das ist unser Simche von Abschliches, und Misios Nefesh. Hat der Rebbe gleich gesagt, ja, das ist der Chinuch, was du hast bekommen. Aber nicht alle haben bekommen unter dem Chinuch. Bei mir versehen die Schwierigkeit, diese Schwierigkeit, was nicht sehr poschet. So geprüft, herausbringen zu meiner Mama, als wir da verstehen, als wir nehmen sofort heraus, das nicht einmal gering. Und man hat gesehen, wie der Rebbetzin, wir können sie sagen, lebt es über und lebt mit, die Schwierigkeiten mit den jungen Schluchim und Schluches, was vorne heraus. Wir sehen, sie werden ganz nah reingemischt in dem. Und das kann man sehen, unter die sicher, was der Rebbe sagt, als die Rabbeim tun nur für die Inyanim durch die Rebbetzins. Noch eine Sache, was mein Tat hat mir erzählt, als einmal sind sie gewesen bei der Rebbetzin Mamisch in der ersten Jahren, was sie geöffnet haben, Besefer. Und jemand, die Kinder, die sie gewesen, sind nicht gewesen nur von frommen Mischproches. Und der Rebbetzin hat herausgewiesen, eine größere Neue von dem, als die meisten sind nicht gemacht, nur für Kinder von unseren Häusern, nur echt von fremden Mischproches, von freien Mischproches, zu sie bekarf sein. Und es hat herausgesagt, halbwei wird es also gewesen, da echt. Ich weiß nicht, wegen welchem Besefer, aber also hat sie das herausgebracht in andere Werte, es hat gegeben eine Meinung echt in den Trum von der Welt des Erschliches. Es ist da ein Sipur, was schon erzählt kam, ein paar Mal mein Tate hat einmal für sich kochen in dem. Als meine Eltern sind einmal gewesen bei der Rebbetzin in Stub, und haben sie dort gemacht, eine schöne Matone. Und gar nicht später sind sie gewesen, um sie gewollt sagen zu der Rebbetzin, also Matone ist eine schöne Matone, und sie ist eine Choshbe Matone. Hat der Rebbetzin sich herausgesagt, nicht das ist die Matone, auf welche wir warten, also Aloschen. Hat meine Mama gleich angehabt, hat sie gesagt, in welcher Matone es wollt ihr gewesen, eine Linie, was kann bringen nach Hasruach zum Rebbe, zu der Rebbetzin. Hat der Rebbetzin gesagt, mir hört, dass sie da eine neue Schir mit Jugend, die Studenten, ich weiß nicht, wo der Loschen ist, und das ist eine Matone. Also haben wir so die Indien. Kaponim, meine Tate kommen zurück, und gleich im Jassel gewinnen eine neue Schir, und ich bete noch ein bisschen und machen noch eine neue Schir. Und das ist eine von den Sachen, was man gesehen, aber wenn sie fangen reingehen bei der Rebbetzin, ist der Nesa Advorim, ist alles gewähnt, nach größer Chelik von der Kaponim, herum der Minion. Der Minion von der Yachas, was der Rebbetzin hat gehabt mit verschiedenen Menschen, die Sache erzählen, aber wenn sie fragen, beten bei der Rebbetzin, Eite, zur Woche, hat sie beklar Makbid gewähnt zu sagen, dass sie wird sie begeben zum Rebbe. Letztes Jahr ist rausgegangen in Tape, von einem Telefon, von einer Woche, was hat gerufen. Und man hört, wie der Rebbetzin reagiert. Und der Rebbetzin fragt bei ihm, sie hat mit ihr gewinnt am Rebbe. Und der Minion ist, bei meiner Mama gewinnt alle Jahren, sie hat verschiedene Probleme von gesund. Und was ich gewinnt sehr interessant, ist, ich gewinnt eine Sachen. Befragt einmal, ist aufgekommen, eine neue Scheile, eine wichtige Scheile, sind sie da reden mit dem Doktor, sie ja wichtig, sie nicht wichtig. Ist von Zeit zu Zeit fragt, der Rebbetzin entfernen von Ort und sagen, das ja, das nicht, und geben nach viele Eizes. Nicht alle Protein können erzählen, aber man hat gesehen, wie der Rebbetzin hat sich gefühlt in der Matze von, wir kennen sie sagen, von Remimus. Sach Menschen fangen rein beim Rebbe nach Chassidis und wie Menschen andere, der Rebbe sich gefühlt mit sie, gerät mit sie, nont mit sie und bei anderen fängt der Rebbe reden wie ein Rebbe mit der Chassid. Wenn man hört, verschiedene Menschen sind reingegangen bei der Rebbe in den Stub, sagt der Seichet, jeder hat sich gehabt seinen Weg, wie hat sich zugegräht und dieselbe Weg, wie der Rebbe hat sich echt gefühlt mit sie. Meine Eltern waren anders. Sie hat gemacht, keinmal nicht eingeladen, wir können sagen, keinmal nicht eingeladen, die Mischproche, nur das letzte Mal gewesen, gleich CHof Beis Shevat. Und ich hoffe, jetzt noch meine Mama reingehen, und der Yachas, was ist gewesen, ich sage gewesen, ein nonte Yachas, aber es ist einmal gewesen, und das nur von Remimus, wie, wir können sie sagen, wie ein Chassid geht rein zum Rebbe, als meine Mama sich zugegräht, und er sieht es gewesen, wenn sie vergereden mit ihr auf dem Telefon. Und dieselbe Weg ist echt gewesen, auf zurück, die Weg wie der Rebbe hat sich geführt mit ihr. Bechlal meine Mama fängt einmal gehen zu der Rebbetzin, wenn man von sein beim Rebbe, fängt zu rufen der Rebbetzin, und der Rebbetzin fängt einladen und bett nach reinkommen. Efter der erste paar Jahre ist die Tage gegangen mit meiner Tate, aber bemäßig die Jahre fängt sie gehen allein. Und der Rebbetzin kam nicht eingeladen, die Mischproche als eine Mischproche. Wenn mein Bruder Mendel gefahren auf sein Bar Mitzvah, in der Alf Nissen und Beis, hat der Rebbetzin eingeladen meine Eltern und mein Bruder Mendel. Wenn sie gewinnt die Bas Mitzvah von meiner Schwester, meine Mama gefahren zum Rebbe, Tofshim weiter der Rebbetzin eingeladen meine Mama und meine Schwester. Ich bin nicht gewinnt auf mein Bar Mitzvah, und bei Meile kann man nicht gewinnen, aber es Damnus, wo der Rebbe soll einladen, die ganze Mischproche. Wenn die Swarm sind, kommen zurück, Beis Kislev Tofshim Ches, sind wir jemand alle gewinnen in New York, meine Eltern und die 3 Kinder, mein Bruder, mir mit meiner Schwester. Sind wir gewinnen beim Rebbe, gleich wie die Swarm sind angekommen, hat meine Mama angerufen, der Rebbe zu anwünschen Mazel Tov. Hat Rebbetzin bei ihr gefragt, wer ist da? Hat meine Mama gesagt, dass alle seien da. Hat Rebbetzin gebeten, man soll reinkommen. Und als Gimel Kislev in der Früh, sind wir gewöhnt bei der Rebbetzin in Stub. Meine Mama hat verstanden, dass sie keine reinbringen noch. Sie hat sich gewöhnt, mein Vater, Rab Nachman Sudak, mit seinem Früh, und sie nicht reinkommen bei der Rebbetzin in Stub. Jemals hat man geguckt auf dem, dass es mit dem verbunden mit dem, wo die Sohn sind, kommen zurück. Und wir sind angekommen, auf dem Tisch ist gewesen, wir sehen es, zu jedem gewesen was zu trinken. Und man hat geredet wegen der Minion, jeder hat erzählt, was kommt vor bei ihm, Miraculous in Frankreich und in England. Und als ist mir gewesen, 15, 20 Minuten bei der Rebbetzin. Von den Sachen, was ich gedenke jemals, ich bin 15 Jahre, ist gewesen, als der Rebbetzin, wenn er mir erzählt, was kommt vor in England, was kommt vor in Frankreich, hat der Rebbetzin reagiert, ich sollte wissen, wir sind nicht zufrieden von euch, zufrieden von der Arbeit. Und die zweite Sache gewesen, wenn man gerade wegen dem, wo die Sohn sind, kommen zurück, hat sie jemand gesagt, nu, jetzt wird sich doch anheben eine neue Kufe. Das ist verschiedene Sachen, was sind dort gewähnt. Und wenn wir Garten bei uns gehen, meine Mama gesetzen, leben der Rebbetzin auf der linken Seite, hat der Rebbetzin gegeben ihre linke Hand zu meiner Mama, sie wie Scholem, ein Wegen. Meine Mama mir erzählt, hat der Rebbetzin hat die Kimmel nicht gegeben in die Hand. Bei mir gewinnt ein Stück Pelle, als sie soll gegeben in die Hand. Jemals sind wir gewinnt zufrieden und hat geguckt auf dem, dass es verbunden mit dem, was die Sohn sind, kommen zurück. Es ist das erste Mal und das einzige Mal, wo der Rebbe hat eingeladen, die ganze Mischproche. Als ich frage, komm ich CHof Beis Shevat, 2 Jahre später, hat man gehört, als in der letzten Tkufe der Rebbe angerufen, maskieren mit anderen und abdenken von der Arbeit. Und jemand hat mir sich gehabt, als der Rebbe gesagt hat, jetzt wird sich in einer neuen Tkufe, und hat gehört, hat dem Loschen in die Siches, hat man verstanden, als Betzim jemals gewähnt, als in Sot mit ein Preide von dem, was ist gewähnt die Stalkus von CHof Beis Shevat. In einer von den Briefen, was meine Mama geschrieben zum Rebbe, nach CHof Beis Shevat, hat meine Mama geschrieben, als eine von den letzten Telefons, die letzte Telefon, was sie gehabt mit der Rebbetzin, hat der Rebbetzin gesagt, sie soll nicht nehmen die Unionen zum Herzen. Meine Mama hat uns gar kein Problem von Herz. Schreibt sie zum Rebbe, als nicht verstanden, was hat der Rebbetzin gemeint, wegen Deignen, wegen ihr Herz. Als sie gewöhnt die Stalkus hat sie verstanden, hat der Rebbetzin hat im Rahmen gewöhnt, als sie sollen nicht nehmen die Unionen zum Herzen.
Well, Yashakeh Levi Azimov for the Meredike stories. We really appreciate it. And just to conclude, as Avi said, the Rebbe gesagt, Lisnaik Berucha, and that everyone should learn from her and to be mechanech the children in her ruach. So there is the famous story which everyone knows, but it's important to repeat it to see how far it was important to the Rebbetzin. The famous story that the Rebbetzin had with Mrs. Sternberg. With Esther Sternberg, the famous story that it was Chof Tafshim Aleph, and there was the first Sefer Torah for the children in Eretz Yisrael. And Reb Zalman Geraya, a few months before, asked the Rebbe to have the schools that he should pay for the keser, for the crown, for the Sefer Torah. The Rebbe gave him the permission. And then there was a whole thing about which crown, and the Rebbe asked that he wants to see the Mashiach Sefer Torah crown, and based on that, the Rebbe chose a crown, and they brought in the Mashiach Sefer Torah crown to the Rebbe's room, all thing. And finally, the Rebbe said to Rabbi Chodakov to tell Rabbi Gurari that he's going to be the Rebbe Shliach to take the crown to Israel for the Chnas Sefer Torah. And that was the same week that Mrs. Sternberg had to have a baby, and she had some complications during the pregnancy, and she was his only Bas Yechidke, his only daughter, and he was very concerned about her, and he didn't want to go. He wanted to stay with her, so he wrote to the Rebbe that she has to have a baby, and there's problems. And the Rebbe said to him, "You're not a doctor, and you're not supposed to be there, so you have nothing to do and with that, and you just go to Israel." Upon him, he probably told the Rebbetzin about the whole story, that he's not comfortable to go. So the Rebbetzin took over, Mrs. Sternberg under her wings, and the Rebbetzin started to call the house, and her daughter was the oldest daughter, who was a young girl, and was like a teenager, and she became the mother in the house, and the Rebbetzin kept asking her every day what she gave her supper to the children, and she put them to sleep, and all the details, and so on and on. And then on Chof, on the very same day of Chof, which is, we all know there is a Farbrengen from the Rebbetzin called Mrs. Sternberg to the hospital, and she asked Mrs. Sternberg if she has a number by Chaim Baruch Halberstam to be able to hear. In those days, you had to pay, that you should be able to have a line from Chaim Baruch Halberstam to be able to hear the Farbrengens. If you need to hear Farbrengens, like when I was in Alaska, I had a line with him, and I used to hear all the Farbrengens from Chaim Baruch. So every place in the world, and also people in Crown Heights were able to have a line. So the Rebbetzin asked her, "Do you have a line to be able to hear the Chaim Baruch's, the Rebbe's Farbrengen?" So she said yes. Mrs. Sternberg, she had a house full with children, and even though she used to come every Farbrengen at the end, Rabbi Weinberg, the Rebbe used to give the alarm for the woman. The Rebbe used to give it to Rabbi Weinberg, Rabbi used to give it to her, and she would give it out to all the women by the Farbrengen. So sometimes she couldn't go to the Farbrengen because she had babies, so she was in the home listening to the Farbrengen. So the Rebbetzin said to her, if you have a line, so the Rebbetzin said like this, you know, the hospitals, every hospital, every bed has a telephone. In those days, there was no cell phone, there was this telephone. So the Rebbe says that you take the shfoferet, the tubke, and of the telephone, and she should lay down with the baby. We talk about a baby was 1 day old, a little girl. She should take the telephone between her ear and the baby's ear, and they should hear the Farbrengen, because it's very important. The Rebbe said that little children should hear Chassidus. The way the Rebbe say about the Rebbe Siches, he said, Red Chassidus. That's the old way that we used to say in Lubavitch. So it's very important that the children should hear Chassidus. And she said, Mrs. Sternberg was laying with the baby, she said it was a miracle that the baby didn't cry. And she heard the entire Farbrengen, and the telephone was between her ear and the baby's ear. And she lay in the hospital, in the bed, and heard the Farbrengen. We talk about a baby, 1 day baby. The Rebbetzin said that she should hear the Rebbe's Farbrengen, all Farbrengen. So we see from here to what extent the Rebbetzin wanted to be mechanech the Chassidim, the entire generation, of what extent to be mekusher zum Rebbe, that a baby, 1 day baby, should be hearing. And that's a used on that story. It became a new custom by Chassidim in our days, that when a baby is being born, when the nurse brings back the baby to the mother, the first thing you do with the baby is you show him a video of the Rebbe. Today we could have a video on our telephone. You show the baby the telephone, and the babies all look very strongly to the. And those children are being mechanech, that from day one they watch videos from the Rebbe. I could tell you from personal experience that I have grandchildren all over the world, and Baruch Hashem, that they in Zambia or in Hungary or in Hungary and wherever they are in the world, or in Alaska, they watch videos from the Rebbe when they are little babies. And they are happy with videos from the Rebbe when they are 2 years old and 3 years old. They don't need Uncle Moshe videos. They don't need any videos. The Rebbe's videos, they copy the Rebbe. They daven like the Rebbe. And I have even grandchildren who are in Zambia, who when they cry, the best thing to calm them down is to show them a mimer from the Rebbe. Not just a parade from the Rebbe, and the Rebbe makes with the hand, but to show them a mimer. And they listen to the mimer from the Rebbe. So it shows you the koyach that the Rebbe gave in videos, the koyach of his kashrus that the Rebbe gave in video, the Rebbe gave in pictures. The famous saying the Rebbe said in there is a zettel Ksavet Kiddush from Rebbe, where the Rebbe said clearly to a woman that told to the Rebbe said, B'shas she will look in the picture of the Rebbe the Shver. So b'kivon shamiti you, b'kivon the Rebbe Shver is amiti, because it's emes, he will look, is looking back. B'shas you look in the picture. So clearly the Rebbe gave a koyach in the picture, and the way the Rebbe said about the Lebedike pictures in the famous rally for children, one of the last rallies, the Rebbe said to the children that you are here in 770, but many kids around the world cannot be here now. But B'shas you'll say the psukim with the big chayas, so that the children around the world will see the Lebedike picture, which is the Rebbe called video. So the Lebedike pictures, they'll be able to see it, and they'll also be inspired. And when the Rebbe came out of the rally, each Mishalovin was standing there. He was going on shlichus to Russia, was Nun Aleph, someone Nun Aleph, and the Rebbe told him to take the video from Chaim Baruch and take it to Russia. So we see clearly how the koyach the Rebbe put in videos and in pictures. So if there is the most important lesson from the Rebbetzin that we have to learn is to be mechanech our children and grandchildren, to be mekusher zum Rebbe, and from day one to watch the Rebbe's videos and the Rebbe's Farbrengens and to learn the Rebbe's siches and to follow the Rebbe's iroes and to go on shlichus, as the Rebbe said in Nun Aleph, to make a sefer shluchim. And the Rebbe said it's so important to put the pictures of the babies that when they see their pictures, when they grow up, they'll want to be shluchim. And as many of those, all the pictures of the little babies from the Sefer HaShluchim, the all Baruch Hashem became Shluchim today. So this is very important. And as to remind everyone again about the Keren Chomesh, that the Rebbe said that, but the Rebbe said to give the number of 470, the number of the Rebbetzin for the number of the Rebbetzins name, the gematria of the Rebbe's name, 470 matbeis. The Rebbe said to give big matbeis, not small matbeis. To give big matbeis of 470, and as we all know, there is Keren Chomesh that the Rebbe established, and it's still today. And so everyone has the opportunity to give for Keren Chomesh and to learn Mishnayos for the Rebbetzin, and of course to tell the children, to tell stories about the Rebbetzin, and to be mechanech everyone to be mekusher to Rebbe, and through that we will all zeicher since it's already Lamed Zayin Shonim, since 37 years from the Rebbetzin Sistalkos, you'll all be Zeicher, as B'Shona Zu Mamesh, there'll be a Kitzev Rano Sheikhne Ofer, and we'll be able to see Zeicher, to see Begashmiz, Dolemato, the Rebbetzin Galus, together with the Rebbetzin, Dolemato, Lechaim, Lechaim. And it's then, by next Chassidishe Farbrengen, Lechaim.